Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners. Welcome back, everybody. Time again for another Word Balloon Live, the comic book conversation show. John Sutras here. God, it's been months, but not that many months since our last Bendis tapes, but we're back, and it's great to see Brian Michael Bendis. How are you, my man?
How are you, sweetie? Hall of Famer John Sutras. You're a Hall of Famer.
Seriously,
that's awesome.
I now know how the baseball and other athletes feel when they get, because it really was like a Friday afternoon, and my friend who's the sponsor of the program of Illinois State University's broadcast program, and she's like, "Hey, we're putting you in the Hall of Fame." I'm like, "No way!" I'm like, "Why?" And she's like, "Well, you know, radio, but really Word Balloon." She's like, "You're a podcast pioneer," and I'm like, "I am a podcast pioneer. That's cool."
Yeah, take it. Just say thank you. Just got to argue with the lady.
No, I just am like, you know, what did I do? Because as I've said before, and truly, everyone's really nice, but the reality is, I'm a foot soldier in Chicago broadcasting. I mean, I was there, but there was never the John Sutras show other than a weekend show. And it was more, you know, I was a role player. So, you know, and truly, good Lord, my friend Lisa has been the morning host at our local NPR station for like the last 25 years. And I'm like, I'm beating her in. I'm like, that's not right. So, but anyway, no, it was very nice. And no, she's like, hey, you know, everyone's kind of finally figuring out podcasting. So, and you were there at the beginning. And I'm like, well, close enough to the beginning, you know, May of 2005. So, yeah, here we are 17 years later. It's
well,
nice.
I predict, not to rattle your cage or anything, but I predict another one coming somewhere down the line from the Eisners. Or, I mean, you've been doing this a long time.
That would be lovely.
Immense information that is
true.
going to go down very well as the people who care about our craft realize, oh, the best document of the aughts is John's show. It really is. So, you know,
thanks,
you hear it all the time. And now that we've been around enough that there's generations before us and behind us, you hear a lot from creators that grew up listening to us, which is weird because that's not how we see ourselves.
Sure.
But you and I hear it all the time. So I know you must hear it all the time. Other creators, the younger creators who are now established creators that were in like high school when we were doing our dumb shit. So it's weird because in our hearts we're the same. Like nothing's changed.
Right. Oh no, absolutely.
Other than we're not.
No, exactly. Yes, sadly
we're.
Well, as I tell my sister, it's not that we're old; we're just not young anymore. So, you know.
No, yeah, I was picking up my daughter from college, realizing I'm going to have to wrap my head around like what I remember that was. Like I was talking about my wife, like we have to remember like what 50 sounded like to us when we were 25, and it sounded insane. Sounded crazy. Like I probably made this joke on this podcast about how like the most insane thing I ever read in a comic was in Dark Knight Returns, Bruce Wayne being Batman at 55. That's insane. And now I'm like 54 going, all right. Like, you know.
I know. Believe me, I know. Absolutely.
But I have to like when I'm like talking to younger people, I have to remember what this felt like to them and act accordingly. So
yeah, but again, I think it's great that our version of our 50s is a lot more fun than it seemed when we were in our 20s. So that's the good news.
Yeah, we get all the Funko Pops. We get all the references.
I've got my Gorn Funko Pop rather. Knox wants to know if you're answering questions. Yes,
hell yes, anything.
Absolutely.
Open book. The only questions I won't answer are spoilers, and particularly if I feel I may be accidentally spoiling someone else's story. That is always somewhat irrational fear of mine, but a fear of mine. I would hate to do that to someone. I've seen it done on podcasts by others, and it always is a wincy. So Yes, Jimmy, who says, I'm 22 now, and it feels like yesterday that I graduated high school. Oh, yeah. Now, pause. It's going to feel that way for the next 30 years. Like it's exactly that feeling. And then all of a sudden you're like, why is there gray hair on my chest? Oh, yeah, shit.
Oh, this is it. Right away we can even start getting questions.
Yeah, dive
people
in.
already started to roll in. Lewis asks, "Hi, Mr. Bendis. What was your original plan for John Kent?"
I did my original plan for John Kent. That was the total of the story. I know that the aging up of John continues to be a controversial decision in some corners of the internet, but the idea was to create a story that was unique to the Superman family, that expressed the fears and anxieties of family and parenting and growing up and just the family unit and staying together through impossible odds, that was specific to the Kent family, right? So that was one of those, like, that what would happen, that would scare the shit out of them, and how would they deal with it, and to remind everyone that the what it was just to show that John survived something terrible and came out of it a better person. Like, he's like that's what all like the parents could ever hope for, is like, yeah, bad stuff's gonna happen to everybody. Like, it's life, right? But you want to like have him grow up and be online with what they were trying to teach him, and that's what happened. It was a trial by fire. Literally, he was in a volcano full of fire, and but I do know that from day one, as soon as the trigger was being pulled on this editorially, I knew a lot of wheels were turning about what would then be done, and what Tom Taylor has done with the character, literally turning into like a pop culture icon, which I absolutely was not when I was writing them, is everything you'd ever want from the character. And I know you get to miss a chapter from his younger childhood, but in return you get an enormous new chapter in the Kent family and John's thing, and it delights me to no end to see what others have done with it since. It's as I've said on this show over the years, it's my surprise favorite thing. You try something creatively, hoping that in the shared universe it plays well, and that it inspires other creators to do something cool with it or around it or something, or that new story comes out of it. That like and I've had this happen, from everything from Jonathan, from John Hickman has done with Illuminati, and some stuff I did in X-Men, and then stuff here. These are perfect examples of, they took the ball and did something with it so much better than I was going to do. But I know that I got it to the place they needed it to be, to go to their thing. So I'm delighted with where it went. And the idea was to tell this story, and then everyone who writes Superman now has this new status quo to play with, and what they've done with it is amazing.
Excellent. Lewis also asked if you had any plans for a Kent daughter.
A Kent daughter? No, I didn't. Again, DC has been in flux for a while. All right, publicly,
least, yes.
So I don't think I'm talking out of school when I say that. So editorially, there's been a changing of the guard. There's been changing of hands. So I don't know what's coming, and I wish everyone well with their plans. But when I walked in the door, one of the things that was a frustration editorially was the Superman family and what that brought to the table. So, and again, that's not in critique of anybody or anything. It was just what was being discussed in front of me, which is, what kind of stories do we get out of this family? And I like that conversation because, it's a good question. Like, this, the easy thing to do is to break them all up and torture them all, or like, no, let's build on what's gone on here. This marriage is beautiful. This is one of the best marriages in all of comics, and maybe in all of pop culture. So let's really give them some challenges to fight together. And that was my goal from the get-go. And I was thrilled that was like what they kind of wanted from me, because that's kind of all I wanted to do. And so they were just like, no more changing diapers and minivans. Like that I got that was something they were frustrated with. But I like just dealing with this family unit as it was.
Dave Cummings has a good comment and said he probably wouldn't be around online when the chat goes live. He just wanted to say he's loving Pearl and Joy Operations. He's anxiously looking forward to Phenomena. Loved Andre's work for a long time.
Well, I'm going to put out thank you. The Jinx World at Dark Horse has been a really, really great experience for us behind the scenes, and I'm really grateful for the support. This is one of those crazy, amazing years in comics where like everyone's doing great work. There's so much like genuinely brilliant, good shit out there from just about every company that like anytime anyone buys anything we do, I'm like, oh, thank you, man. There's so much good shit out there. So I will say that in an upcoming newsletter, I'm going to announce that Joy Operations is going forward with a sequel that we're starting again in November with Stephen Byrne and I. So thank you for supporting the book at the level where we could keep going, because nothing's written in sand. You try everything, and so but for those who read Joy Operations, we built a lot of new stuff, and now we get to play with it, and so we're grateful we get to do another go around, and hopefully it'll be the next of many. But it is Joy Operations, like almost all the books at Jinx World, are fully digitally and hand painted by my co-creator. So it's more than it's not a monthly operation. It takes a little bit more time than that. So Stephen said that like Joy Operations was the most work he's ever done on anything, and so we're excited to get back into it. So it'll take a little bit of time, but it's coming. Pearl just debuted this week, a brand new issue of Pearl, Volume 3 with Michael Gaydos, and we created Jessica Jones together, and it's our Yakuza romantic epic that we absolutely love making, and it scares us and delights us, and we're so the response this week was, because I'm so happy to see it come back. So we have 6 issues coming over the next 6 months of Pearl, the first, and they're all done. We just literally finished the 6th issue last week, so they're all coming on time. And our lovely group editor Daniel Shaban, who also edits a lot of the creator-owned stuff at Dark Horse, Jeff Darrow, Scott Snyder, Colin Bunns, all this cool stuff, has really been keeping our ship just we're getting it all done. I'm really, no matter what I throw in front of him, we get it done. So yeah, so we have new Joy Operations later in the year, Pearl all summer long, and we'll keep going from that. And right after Pearl will be a brand new book by myself and Jacob Edgar, which we're knee deep in right now. Yeah. So the plan is, the plan is we have like established books like Cover and Pearl, and then we have some new stuff that we want to debut. And in the past on this show, I have unloaded like 4 or 5 books at a time. And that is very exciting for me, and it makes me feel very good, and I explode with energy and creativity. But it can also confuse people, like, well, what are you doing? What's going on? And I can't focus my like marketing chi on this book that means the world to us. So instead of putting out like 3 new #1s this month, I have like Pearl #1. Go buy it, and I can focus all my energy on showing people the beautiful work. So what we're going to do is do an established title, and then a new title, and then established title, then a new title. So it's we started with Joy, and then we're doing Pearl, and then the next one with Jacob, which will be announced soon, and then Murder Inc. is coming back, and Cover's coming back, and I have a new book with both with Alex Maleev and with Michael Evanoming that are in production right now, being written and drawn as we speak. So
outstanding.
So that covers, that covers it for the next couple of years. So okay, which is a nice feeling.
Boy, I feel like Harry Carey. Matthew Rosenberg enjoying the
Oh,
broadcast.
Matthew,
Hi,
darling.
Matthew. He wants to know, can you tell us more about the book with Jacob Edgar? He's so good.
I will tell you, Matthew, if you tell me you have a new creator-owned book coming out this summer. That's why I ride Matthew to do more creator-owned work. Like that's my job in the world, is to ride him like an uncle. Anyway,
He's doing good.
Yeah. No, we have it's a comedy. It's an action comedy, and it's an idea that I'm very excited about. And Jacob is killing it, and I'm really happy with this collaboration so far. It's a very new thing, and I will tell you that when Mike Oming read it, he went, "Oh!" So that was good. He wanted to draw it. So I'm not saying it because what Mike's got is something really, really good too. But when he read the ones to do the variant cover, the inevitable Mike Oming variant cover, the response was very sweet. So I'm excited about showing it to you when it's time. I think this fall. I think so. I think we have Phenomena comes out in September, and then after that, we'll put out the new book with Jacob. Again, not to overlap them.
I assume that when Matthew said this winter, that's when his next creator-owned thing is coming.
Oh, okay. I thought he was talking about me.
Could be wrong. I'm not sure.
Is that for Matthew? Was that you?
Matthew will confirm. I would imagine in a moment or two. Okay.
One day, I don't know what it is, and no one's asked for this. I would like to do something with Matthew.
That'd be great.
I would like to do that. I'm saying it here and not like to him personally because I'm broken.
All right. Let's see, because a lot of questions are coming in there, and they're all terrific. So
also, me and Matthew should like do like a podcast together. Like him and I should we should do a conversation, maybe like a Substack or something.
Yeah. Hey, if if you ever need help podcast wise with Substack, you're my buddy.
Yeah, they've added that to our toolbox, which I really appreciate, and I'm playing with it now.
Good.
So I'll have some stuff out. Nothing like what we're doing here, but like something like a new way to put out some information, maybe like like a director's commentary kind of thing, if people even remember what that is. So
I only offer my help, and you don't.
Please.
Well, and very well, I love when you talk to other creators, and was happy to facilitate one of those conversations when we had you talk to Jerry Conway for one of our conventions. Yeah,
those are my favorite. Those are my favorite. I just did one with Bill Sienkiewicz for Moon Knight.
Hey, that's great.
Do for Chicago for whatever ChicagoCon, whatever that is, and that was one of my favorite conversations I've ever done in any about any comics thing. It was perfect. It was just wonderful. I love him so much. Yeah. So if you see it, catch it.
He's coming to suburban Chicago to the Dunn Museum. He's got an exhibit there that already started, and we had a conversation there. But he's coming to personally take people through it in August. And we intend to get together then.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Oh. He's the best. No, I agree with you, man. And it's it is such a compliment that Bill is like, hey, of course, John, whatever you need. I'm like, oh, thank you, Bill.
Yeah, he's the best.
So yeah, man. That's Knox. Where's your question, Knox? Because you keep asking
why am I not seeing the questions? We're
I don't know.
I can't see them. Okay.
Not in the chat.
What's Brian's thoughts on the Superman stands?
Who are the Superman stands, by the way, hating on him for his 2018? I don't know those guys. That's the Superman Revenge Squad.
There are some. Is there a Superman Revenge Squad? They call it. They have
the comics. That was a Bronze Age thing.
Oh yeah,
there was a Superman.
All right.
They had the kryptonite, the S emblem that was made out of kryptonite and everything. But go on.
Listen, I'm sad that when anyone doesn't care for something I've done. That's not why I'm not doing it to piss you off. I'm telling it to tell you a story. I'm here to surprise and delight you. And for the things that you didn't like, some people were really surprised and delighted. I heard this weekend from people saying, hey, just read your Superman run. I really, really liked it. So it's not everybody. But John was here during my Spider-Man run, during my Avengers run, during my X-Men run. It's always where I'm at because there's always this weird mix of deep love for the history of the characters, but always trying to push them forward into new places. And those new places are sometimes, I don't want you to go new place. Go to the old place that I like, right? Or go to the place in my head that I'm thinking of that you don't know about. So I told honest, true stories about Superman. I was very dedicated to the character's ideals during a very crazy time in this country. So, and every single issue is beautiful, hands down. Not like the fill-ins are Kevin McGuire. I mean, there is like they are gorgeous. So I'm the people who don't like something sometimes think they speak for everybody, and they speak for the people they're talking to online, right? And then there's a lot of other people who just liked it or loved it or whatever. So I give it another shot because it was written really honestly. It was written from a really deep love of character and love of the DC universe. Like, it came from a really good place. I know that. And now I have some perspective on it, so I really know it. So I take the criticism well. Sometimes they say something in the critique that lets you know they never even read it, right? And there's some information about my run that is online that is incorrect. Like someone will go, I don't even know where it comes from, but I know there's a group of people who think I murdered Lois Lane, that she was murdered in my run. And they yell at me about it a lot. And so when you go, fuck you for killing Lois Lane, I go, okay, well, you didn't read my book. Oh, that she was never killed, not even like the comic book killed and back to the next issue. She was never, no physical harm came to Lois Lane during my run. A lot of emotional harm, sure, but that's my job. And but so when people say fuck you for killing Lois Lane, I can excuse that critique. That's not from the real world.
Right.
So it's a weird mix of things for me. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's like, I want to take in all critique and really put it into the stew and think about it and use those lessons to move forward. And I have to sift through looking for the good critique. Like like, I really read this and here's what I really thought, versus I read someone else's opinion on 4chan and fuck you. There's nothing for me to learn there,
That's hilarious.
So that's where I try to describe this to people because I know from other writers that I know very well that our perspective on this is very different than a fan's perspective, no matter where they're encamped online. Some people are in a very safe space online where they see a lot of people who love comics and that's all they see. And there's some people who are encamped in a very dark place online and all they see is people shitting each other's mouths. Sure. And that's all they see.
Yep.
And neither one of those places are the real world. So,
I'm with you.
And it's comics. So what is the real world? And it's, like whatever you like. Who cares what everyone else thought about it?
I agree. By the way,
what you like.
Currently, not only are we getting Tom Taylor's take on John and Superman, but we also are getting Philip Kennedy Johnson's incredibly great
100%.
heavy metal Superman on Warworld story that is terrific and is very traditional Superman. And so if you didn't like it, it's in the past, Brian's run.
Yeah,
and people continue to do interesting, neat stuff with the characters. So who cares? I just want to show you because
when someone dings me about John like recently, I'm like, that was like 4.5 years ago,
right?
Like in pandemic years. It was like 20 years ago in this culture. So
that's true.
That's
absolutely true. I know you're a Spindrift fan, and I don't know if you've had this flavor yet, but it's the blood orange tangerine.
Yes, I don't drink Spindrift. You're remembering. My kids are obsessed with Spindrift, so there's a lot of Spindrift in this house, including that flavor. So yes.
Oh my God. I literally just discovered this flavor in like the last couple of months. Maybe it's been on the West Coast. I don't know. But it's like it has replaced grapefruit as the absolute best Spindrift flavor. And it's so great.
One of my monthly books, all of it goes to Spindrift.
I have no doubt. My God, yes, man. You never ran out. And again, I understand you got all the kids and everything. So that made sense. But I'm like, oh, this is great. He's got Spindrift. I'm totally guzzling this stuff on here.
So
anyway.
So back to I
real shit.
Really do. I'm online. I don't hide. I'm right there. Yeah. I'm there to engage in the back and forth of here's my work. What did you think of it? And for me to learn from it. It gets squirrely in some areas, and it's hard to know what to do with it. right? So, but what I've learned is, when you hear something, even if it's said nicely, and you go, yeah, that's true, I fucked that up. Like, it when you hear it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stinker Buns says, and I think really you should answer this question as much, Mr.
Yes.
Sumptress. I'm going to Fan Expo Chicago. I'm hoping to get an item signed by Mr. Bendis and Mr. Mack. Any tips about getting a signature and what to expect at my first convention?
Well, I'm excited for your first convention. We have all experienced this. My first convention was a life-changing experience. I know I'm still coming down from it. Like, I'm literally writing a book about it right now. That's
great.
Yeah. So, I will say you are in a safe space full of people who love all the same stuff you love, and you can let your freak flag fly, whatever. So, some of us like hold it in our everyday, but you go to convention and you could just be you. And what's great about comics, what was great about it when I was a kid going to shows, and now that I'm an older cop to going to shows, that it's still, you could just walk up to your favorite comic book creator and say hello and have a lovely conversation and be inspired and delighted or horrified, whatever it comes out of the other person's face. But you can really have genuine interactions with people that you love. And I have, and some people that like, I was like, when they go there, they pay their money, and then they get too nervous to walk up to say hello to someone that they love. And like, oh, no, you're allowed. You paid the money. We're all here. The social contract is you can say hi, right? It's not like you're, and like, of course, like if they're in the middle of a conversation,
right, you don't want to interrupt.
Like, I see that all the time. Like, you could, like, I have little kids, so you see kids do it all the time too, right? But you see them on the phone. There's a phone, and they're talking, and but if you see someone standing there or they're working their booth, you walk right up and you say hello, and you talk about whatever it is you want to talk. Or if you are a artist, it's easier for artists than it is writers to come up and show your stuff. You got stuff to show it off. Get critique. Listen, it's free. It's amazing. So I'm excited for you. So please come up. And I'm laughing because as we're talking, I realize I haven't done a show in like 5 fucking years. I haven't done a show in a long, like, I think New York was, like, I'm trying to think what was the last show I did. Just because COVID, right? I keep saying yes to shows, and then
and you were sick too.
Yeah, that's true. But so I haven't I haven't done a show in a long time, so we'll see what's what. But I've heard from my friends that like they've just been delightful and very warm. Like, people are doubly excited to see each other and feel that connection. Yeah. It's all about connection, man. And some of my greatest comic book convention memories are Chicago. Like, in the 80s and the 90s and the aughts, like every decade, I've had some amazing stuff happen in Chicago. You've been there for something. Yeah.
Indeed. And God, I remember a young woman that was sitting next to me at a panel in a Chicago show, and she was just beside herself, so excited to do it. And she's like, "You'll forgive me. I know I'm like bubbling over the top, but this is my first convention." I'm like, "It only gets better." I'm like,
it's always
with you. And believe me, I still get that, jolt of excitement every convention I go to. So yeah, man, no, I'm excited about Fan Expo Chicago, C2E2.
I will be there.
I'm excited to see it. Well, and I'm really excited that the Fan Expo people took over the Wizard Show, because I think it's going to return that show to its former glory.
I have enjoyed it's the most evolving show of the Chicago Con, right? It used to be Wizard World, and there's always been a version of the Chicago. And I remember the OG Chicago Con that Wizard had to buy.
Yes,
they were all great. That was the one I met Oliver Stone and Aerosmith, and that's where I met David Mack. That's where I met some of my best friends, like, of all time.
That's great.
Yeah. So it can be a real life-changing show.
That's
not
fantastic,
to put too much on it, or it could just be a show. You get home, you get some signatures, you go home. And Sunday, people have forgotten Sundays where you get the deals.
That's right.
That's somehow slipped away a little bit from generations. But like, you hang out till Sunday, man. None of those retailers want to load up their car again. They want to sell 100%. Everything on that table.
That's right.
So go up and go. I'll give you $10 for all of it, and you'll be surprised how many people say yes.
My one radio boss that was into comics, he always only goes on Sunday, and that's when he makes his purchases and stuff. So no, you're 100% right about that.
Yep.
Ace
When I was a kid,
said,
that was like a thing. Like that was, and I
oh,
know
yeah.
that's kind of sauntered away. What was the one? I just
Yeah, we'll get
missed
it.
All
It's
right.
all good. Ace says, "Hey Bendis, considering you're making the JLA versus Legion run, who do you think would win in a fight, Karate Kid or Batman?"
You might find out.
You don't have the hatred for Karate Kid that oh god, what's his face? Who worked with Kevin and Keith Giffen. Keith Giffen hated Karate Kid and was always like
Did
killing
he?
on.
I don't think.
Yeah,
I knew
yeah,
that.
like in just a fun way. And he would always he said like karate. I believe, and please, Peanut Gallery, correct me if I'm wrong
Yeah, I
about it
don't think
being
I ever
Giffen.
heard that.
But
Yeah.
I do know some Legion. It wasn't Levitz, and I don't think it was Kevin or Mark DeMatteis, but one of the Legion creators, and I believe it was Giffen. It's like, yeah, I always gave Karate Kid shit because I couldn't stand him. And it's like, all right, whatever. In a funny
Yeah,
way, you know?
I will say a Legion talk. We're doing Justice League Legion, having a good time. Sorry, it's shipping a little slower than originally intended. It is a lot to draw. It is. You add the Justice League on top of the Legion. That's not a monthly book. So, but it is coming out as originally intended, and we're putting it together now. And on the side, I'm still working on the Legion pilot for HBO Max. So that's been cooking along. We have a meeting next week on it. So anytime they call a meeting on it, it's good. It means they're still working on it. They didn't throw it away yet. So I'm excited about that. And the writing the Legion pilot, it's been one of the most fun things I've ever done. Like it's such a puzzle. It's such a complicated puzzle of character balance. It's so advanced versus like, writing a book like Pearl where there's a lead character and some friends,
Sure.
most of my books kind of have that structure. There's Peter and his friends
unit.
and
Yeah.
but even a team book has 6 to 8 people on it, and here we are with a 34 person cast.
Wow.
And 1,000 years in the future where everything has to be built from scratch. It's a very exciting project to be working on for brain wise.
Magic K says, will there be more Legion comics from you after this Legion versus the Justice League?
I don't have anything on planned right now, but I don't know. So not at the moment. But it's been 2 years of anything could happen. So we'll see.
All right, fair enough.
But I appreciate Justice League Legion did really well, and I appreciate that. It was one of their top selling non-Batman titles last month, and that was nice, even though Batman's in it. I said, "Oh, good, we're the only non-Batman like top 10 book," and we're like, "Oh yeah, but Batman's in it." So
he is in it, yeah, exactly. Radium Theater Productions wants to know, how does the Great Darkness in Justice League versus Legion fit into the Great Darkness from Levitz and Giffen's run? Will it lean into the current Great Darkness storyline in the Dark Crisis arc that's coming?
That is a perfect example of spoiler. So I in complete respect to Josh and everyone working on that Dark Crisis, I'm not going to say a word about it. And also, I'm not in that loop on a day-to-day, so I don't know like even what's changed and what hasn't changed over the course of them making stuff. So I'll say I have the absolute. It's impossible to have a higher regard for the original Great Darkness saga than and of course we all have. So my deep love for it has propelled this storyline, and hopefully you'll be able to see the connective tissue of the Age of Heroes story that I've been telling with the Legion since the very first issue of Legion of Superheroes Millennium, where we literally walk through the Age of Heroes with Rose Forrest. So we're walking with her, and then she's going to be here during this storyline to kind of connect the tissue even more so. So stay tuned for some deep dive connective DC tissue.
Phoenix Animation, a film question. You've written a third of my favorite comic book collection. All New X-Men is a particular favorite. Any
So-
film noir recommendations? He's seen the basic classics.
Film. We're talking film.
Film noir. Film
Okay.
noir specifically.
Film noir.
While you're thinking of
So,
it, I will recommend real fast. Errol Flynn, very late in his career, did a movie called The Big Boodle. You can find it on YouTube. It was made in Cuba, which is really interesting. And he loved Cuba because he was a complete playboy kind of carouser and stuff. He's Bruce Wayne without the Batman habit, basically. And it's a really neat movie where he is a croupier in a casino that gets implicated in a counterfeit scam. And it is so cool to see old Errol Flynn. And he still had it in this movie, I think. So that's one that I would recommend.
That's a good one.
Do you know that movie? Have you seen it?
I have not seen it, but I laugh because it sounded like you made all those words up.
Big Boodle, I know.
Errol Flynn's got a movie on YouTube, but it sounded like a bad would have gone horribly wrong.
Well, that's honestly the great thing about YouTube is there are so many orphan movies that don't have DVD deals in any way, and people throw them up there. And truly, I found some great old movies. And when they say film noir, I'm going back to the oldies. So yeah, that's why it's like, and that was one that I only discovered in the last couple of years. So that's my recommendation.
It's also turned into comedy heaven for us comedy nerds.
100%.
I can't believe what's been showing up lately too. There's deep dive stuff. Letterman's doing an archive of stuff that I watched the clips and I'm like, it's like an alternative universe of stuff. I don't remember this at all. It's like I just watched 25 minutes of stuff from 80s Letterman. I don't remember a single second of. It's like you're like looking into some weird mirror of some other anyway. But I'm so excited because there's been some really good film noir movies over the last 2 years.
Well, that's true. Yes.
And guys like us, when asked the question, we immediately go to like Heat and The Godfather and decades ago. But Steven Soderbergh last year put out a movie called No Sudden Moves with Don Cheadle. And that's where it's so good.
Cool.
It's on HBO Max right now. It's so good. It's like it's got the energy of an Ocean's movie, but the feel of like Out of Sight is one of his best. I can't recommend it higher. It's also one of those movies that every half hour kind of goes, no, this is what we're about. You thought like in the first half hour, you go, oh, I like what this movie's about, and then an hour later, it's about completely something else differently. It's so great. So that'll be my.
That's awesome.
But then I will say there's so many great ones, and also I've seen that the language of film noir has like entered the action genre so hard that some of the best like visuals of film noir are actually happening in John Wick and stuff like that. So yeah, it's pretty great. Yeah, the Brendan Fraser renaissance that we're getting is because of his performance in No Sudden Moves.
There you go.
Literally, you watch that movie for like an hour and a half and go, shit, that was Brendan Fraser? Like, that's how good the performance is. You don't even recognize him. Yeah, fantastic.
That's great. That's fantastic.
He got him with Scorsese, went from out of work to a Scorsese. So there you go.
That's excellent. Green Shadow wants to know, the Netflix show of Daredevil made me a regular Daredevil fan, but your amazing run made me a lifetime fan. What are your memories from the time you worked on the title of Daredevil?
It's something I've been processing a little lately, and it's as we've gotten a little older, and these books are now out there, and they've stayed in print, and the shows bring new audience to them. Some word of mouth brings new audience to them. So I'm constantly hearing from people reading Daredevil, some for the first time. Cool. Relieved that it aged well. It's like 20 years old, some of it. So that's a lot. That's like going back to when we were kids and like thinking about was 20 years old when we were kids. It's quite a journey. So I think number one, I had started the book having learned a lot of lessons working for Todd McFarlane, right? So it was actually my first book at Marvel. I started writing it before I started writing Ultimate Spider-Man. So I was off and running with it beforehand. And I had applied a lot of lessons that I had learned. And some of it was just don't give a fuck and do this, right? And so those memories serve well. I also learned a great lesson about collaboration that applied directly to Daredevil, and it was when just before Daredevil, Alex Maleev and I, who were not friends at the time, but I was a huge fan of. Everyone in my peer group was like, "Who the hell is that?" Right? Like every time we saw his art, and he just did some Crow stuff, and me and David Mack had fallen in love with his work, and we reached out, and I got him to do Sam and Twitch with me at Todd McFarlane, and it was a cop book that we did together, and it was a great gig for me, and it let me like figure some stuff out. Really got me ready for the Marvel main stage in a weird way, and part of what I was doing wrong when I was working with Alex and everybody else I was working with at that time was I had come out of a solid decade of writing and drawing my own graphic novels. So when we were working together, I didn't know where the writing stopped. So I would write it, and then I would draw elaborate layouts, and then I would give those and everything to the artist, thinking like I was just helping, right? And then slowly, I've discussed on the show in the past that I figured out, I was overstepping. I was literally, and it was Mark Badley who called me up, and someone else I didn't know at the time, and with his wonderful Southern gentleman drawl said, "Hey, you don't have to do that part. That's my job. Like you're doing my job." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And if he would have called up and yelled at me, I would have felt like less worse than him being so nice about it. Made me like devastated, right? It was like, I'm embarrassing myself. And then I found out I was doing this to Alex, and I was doing this to Michael Gaydos. I was overreaching with my work, and I did it the entire time we were on Sam and Twitch. I was drawing it and then showing it to Alex, and then when I left the book, and by left I mean Todd fired me, Alex did a few issues with Todd. And when Todd and Alex were working together, Todd would, according to Alex, call him up on the phone and tell him the script in like a Marvel style way, but on the phone. So Alex was actually physically writing it down.
Yeah.
And so he went from full script with layouts, megalomaniac Brian, to Todd going, 2 pages of a gun show and blah, blah, blah. And then they fall in love, and then they blah, blah, blah. And then he told me this, and I was so fascinated by that. And then I saw the final results, and I saw that Alex was in a much freer place because of this.
Yeah.
So to the point where I was deeply embarrassed by my behavior as a collaborator, even though no one complained to me. So when we started Daredevil, I was able to come at him with kind of like a reset, like I will now write this full script, but with all respect to his energy as an artist. So I felt like I, in real time, solved a big problem in my personality, and was immediately rewarded for it with beautiful pages. And it started, I feel, really started our collaboration where it is now. So I'm deeply relieved that the book is aging well and being seen well, and that I am still working with Alex, and that we are still challenging each other on a level that is beyond anything I could have ever thought I would get on my own. So yeah, and we were really doing something right now that scared the shit out of us. And boy, I'm so proud of us too, because we were offered some things that we knew we could do at some of the mainstream companies, and instead we said, let's do the one we don't know how to do. And all of my heroes do that. And we will, and so rarely are you faced with it directly. Like, if this is here's the moment right here, choose which one. And we chose well. So I'm proud of that. So it's with a lot of pride I look back on it for those reasons. And also Alex is just always will be one of my all-time favorite artists of all time. He's the artist I wanted to be when I was growing up. I remember that was what I said. I said to David Mack, this is what I want my shit to look like. And so instead I just work with Alex. It's much easier.
That's awesome. Absolutely. Um, Knox asks, you've been doing a lot for Justice League and said that Xanadoth is the Lord of Chaos, whom all magic users fear. This is also exactly how Mordred was described. How would Mordred do versus Xanadoth? How would that happen? Like, who would win that?
That's that's a very good question. Well done. I do have in my heart a connective thread of the energies of the Age of Heroes, and that's some of what's going on in the Justice League Legion. So you're not going to see the Xanadoth part of it, but what you're feeling though, I agree with. There's like this threads of the DC universe, both in magic and in espionage and other pillars, as it were, and of genre, and those, and the Legion allows us to examine those at some heightened state, like there's a sci-fi of it all. But here's the idea: 1,000 years later, now
Right.
what do you think of it? And that's how we're handling the Gold Lantern. Like that's the Green Lantern saga 1,000 years later. Sure. So yeah, I'm with you on that. That's a good question. Good one.
Enrique,
I will say Mordred will win. That's what I've learned from now. If anyone asks me who would win in a fight, it's never the one I created. It's the other.
Enrique Klein asks, any follow-up plan for your book Words on Pictures? It was an awesome book, by the way. Couldn't put it down. Thanks for making it.
Thank you. I am so happy that exists, and almost every day someone tweets me about it, and that's the kind of, like, if you're thinking, if you're another creator thinking about doing stuff like that, do it, because it's a beautiful connection. It's beautiful as anything, helping people in their moment when they need it. I've needed it from other people and I've gotten it, so to be that for other people is great. So the answer to the question is, it is full underway. The sequel to Words for Pictures is a book called Creation, and it is going to be a nuts and bolts. How do you create stuff through anecdotes of how stuff has been created in the past and the lessons that have been learned? It is a mixture of things that really, really worked, like Miles Morales, and things that really, really didn't, like things you haven't heard of. So, we'll be diving into that this calendar year, and it'll be coming to you in some surprising ways in formats.
Hey, Tony Fleece is excited that you're doing.
But keep an eye on the newsletter. Keep an eye on the Substack.
Oh, that's good. Okay. And your newsletter is it's free on Substack, correct? Or not?
Right now it is free.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, man. Here we go. Jimmy Vlogs, and I'm glad we're acknowledging this. With the passing of George Perez and Neil Adams, there's kind of only one great classic Superman artist left, and that is the great Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. What is the comic of his that made you realize he was fantastic? Great question, Jimmy.
Any comic I've ever seen with his name on it, I don't remember ever seeing a book where you go, well, that's lesser Jose Luis Garcia. No, it's all top shelf, right?
Yeah,
I can't.
Yeah.
But like, he's why I bought Atari Force. Like, that's the only reason I would buy Atari Force, and it was totally worth, like, right? Like, that's how you know you love someone, when they get you to buy something. Like, I would never buy this if not for. And
was
also,
that with Conway? Was that Atari Force? Did Jerry Conway write that? Who wrote Atari Force?
Or Mike W. Barr, maybe?
Maybe it was. I don't know. Again, Peanut Gallery, if you don't feel free. But yeah, I agree with you, man.
Come on, Rosenberg. What do you got? I will say, listen, I walked in the door at DC and I said, can I meet Jose Luis? Well, that was the first words out of my mouth. And the first pages that I put out at DC Comics was that lovely man who I still don't know. He did as a favor to Dan, came out of retirement to do my first Superman story, and created a character with us. The Red Cloud is technically created by myself and Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. So, and was delightful the entire time. And just, it just helped me. It's so weird to transition from Marvel to DC. I know many other creators have done it over the years, but you are like almost changing your energy field. I don't know how to describe it without sounding like a weird Portland hippie, but you're like, the whole energy of your existence has to change. You're entering like a new universe, but with things that still apply. And having Jose Luis Garcia Lopez and Ivan Rice and other people be there with me at the get-go really helped the transition to my DC language in a big way. Because once you see those pages, you kind of like realize what you have to do with them, you know. So
yeah, there's a reason why after Neil Adams he did the style guide for DC back in the 80s. And it's true, he's just so quintessential, not only Superman but DC Universe. And I have a process page of his that has 2 flash drawings, a Batman and a Superman, and I'm so glad I got it. I've said this before when we've talked about him. Art Balthazar beat me on a Superman sketch that I'm still like, I thought about it. I went away, and an hour later, you know, Art Balthazar like, hey sir, look what I got from Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. I'm like, son of a bitch, I should have.
That's amazing.
Damn it. So
I just adored him, and working with him was fantastic. Just so, and also he's one of those guys that like he for us, he was like this magical thing that just showed up in weird places. Like, oh, this DC Comics Presents is by him. Like you never knew where he was going to pop up, and was always someone great. And I probably will say my favorite of all time is Batman Hulk. It's just so well illustrated. It's just so well done that there's some great ridiculous stuff in there, and he sells it all. Like Batman winning the fight, he totally sells it. It's completely based on the power of his art.
David Hazan says also not only words with for pictures, your TED Talk, he says, was also very inspirational. Very nice.
I appreciate that. TED Talks are very hard to do. It was the Conway. Okay, I apologize. TED Talk was one of the hardest things. I know that most of the interaction we have is you hearing me talk in situations like this, but that's not most of my day. Most of my day is quietly parenting and banging my head against the wall trying to figure out shit. So this performance that is part of my life sometimes is not my natural state. So to get up on stage and walk through something with some import is hard. It took me a long time to get there. I will say I'm not fat shaming myself. I wish I could do it over again because that was literally me at my heaviest. And I got my shit together like soon after. Like I had like this 3-month period where I did Seth Meyers and a TED Talk, and then I lost the weight. And I'm like, can I get a do-over? And I got a do-over in Seth Meyers. I got to go back on Seth skinny, which was nice. So there's, also that's when people, going back to the critique question before, when people call me fat online, I know they're talking from like 10 years ago.
Sure.
Like I lost it like 5 years ago. So they're mad at me for something from 10 years ago. Yeah. So, no, but my mom did ask if I knew if there's anybody I knew who could get all the heavier pictures of me offline, that there's too many. I go, well, I was heavy for a long time, Mom.
It's funny.
I'm just going to have to own it.
I was looking for a more recent image, and it is funny how there are still 10-year-old pictures of you heavy. So, no, I understand. And believe me,
I did a lot of press. I did a lot of like big press in my heavier years. So what are you going to do?
That's all right. Yeah. It's in the past. Green Shadow wants to know, is it true that when it was announced that Zdarsky would be taking over Batman, you sent him a message wishing him absolute failure? If you did, I know the joke, so it's fine. Hilarious.
Well, it's a funny joke, but I did not do anything like that. I did tip my hat to getting his career into the place where he could do Batman and Daredevil, because when I had the opportunity to do both, I was not in a place legally to do both, and so I tipped my hat at the far. Listen, there were pros and cons to being exclusive, of course, but at the time, me and Alex got, like 20 years ago, we got invited to do to leave Daredevil and do Batman, and it weighed heavy. That one, we still talk about it sometimes, and doing those Batman stories together over the last couple of years really did help relieve that, like, oh, we never did our Batman, but now we've done our Batman, so we feel a little better. But at the time we're like, oh, but it was the right move at the time not to do it. We made the right choice. But I think Chip, listen, no bullshit. I think Chip's one of the best writers in all of comics. We don't know each other very well, other than we share a best friend. I'm an enormous fan of his talent.
Me too.
I love the nonsense that comes with him. People forget, like Chip Con, like Zdarsky Con. Like,
Yes.
that was only a few years ago. But like Chip came to comics with a lot, and I enjoyed all of it. It was delightful to be part of.
I used to love when I used to love too when he would was it Applebee's he picked on Twitter. And
yes,
yeah, I mean, it was very, very Don Novello, who used to write crank letters to corporations.
Good reference.
Nice. Yeah, well, I know who I'm talking to, man. Again, it's an ancient reference, but no, it's like that's the great thing about Chip. He came in, we knew he was good comedy, and he's only proven himself on the serious action side with his work on Daredevil, Batman, and the like. And I'm so happy for Chip. He's a great.
Yeah, a lot of times, and not just comics, but people come into their medium with a lot of flourish or some shtick, some good shtick, and then there's nothing really there, and then they kind of flitter away the way they flittered in, they flitter out, and Chip is one of the people who there's a lot there. There's a lot to go. I'm very excited about it.
Absolutely. Jimmy Vlogs wants to know, he's over 400 pounds and recently lost 20 and keeping that up. However, he wants to know, how did you lose the weight? Any tips?
I am very reluctant to give tips on weight loss. I do not have a good relationship with food. I do not have the emotions that went into my weight gain were dealt with. I think that's some of it. I was stress eating a great deal. I mean, everyone comes to their food differently. I've learned all of this over time. So I'm going to be very clear that what worked for me may not work for you, and other things that work for other people have not worked for me. For me, it was really coming to terms with why I was doing that. Some of it was just I was aging, and
your metabolism slowing down.
My metabolism slowed the fuck down fast, and it happens more than once. It happens it happens like late 30s, and it happens again mid 40s. It happens a couple of times where you can do it, like you can eat that piece of cake. Good luck. And
no, you're right, man. You're right.
And so I used to be a long distance bike rider who would ride 9-10 hours a day, and then go home and eat whatever the fuck I wanted for like a long like way over a decade of my adult life was spent doing that. And I could eat whatever I wanted. And then the kids come, and then the bike rides get shorter. And like I was on my bike today, but it wasn't a 10-hour bike ride. It was an hour bike ride with my kids, right?
Okay.
So, but with that comes I can't now eat 14,000 calories of candy. I also, when you get older, your body doesn't want any of this shit anymore. Like my body doesn't want a lot of the crap that I used to really enjoy. I will tell you that I broke it down to a calorie count every day. I kind of keep an eye on the 2,000 a day.
That's what my suggestion was going to be. Yes.
And then pick like what am I going to do with my 2,000, right? Like what am I going to do with it? I also found out, I can be a stress eater. Well, you know what? Then chop up an apple into little sticks and have them by your desk and gnaw on them all night. And when you're all done, you had 100 calories of healthy vitamins versus Chick-fil-A or whatever the fuck I was eating back in the day. You remember,
I know this.
Like when
I do remember. Yes.
Yeah,
one of your great vices, Chick-fil-A. Absolutely, man. I was going to say apples are great too. And I don't know if you knew this. I'm assuming you did. Calorically, the great thing about apples is they burn more. It takes more calories burning them and digesting them than they actually are. So you are burning more calories actually digesting that apple than it actually was originally. So not only is it a great way to fill up, but it does. Yeah. I mean, that's why that whole apple a day keeps the doctor away proverb. It's like, no, they really didn't know what they were talking about. Apples are great for you that way. And find the food that you like that is low calorie. And truly, I mean, that's what I did too. And again, I mean, dude, believe me, I was well over 325 because of COVID. I'm at 300 now. I've lost 25. I got God bless you, son, but I got a long way to go. I want to get back down to where I was about 7 years ago when I was under 250 and looking better and feeling better. So that's my hope.
Listen,
And,
I also had the benefit of I finally, lost the weight, and then I had that health scare a few years ago, and literally every doctor told me that's why you're still alive. Like you at 300 or 250 or whatever I wasn't going to make it through this.
Could have died.
And that really does sober you the fuck up. Like there's no candy better than that, right? So
nothing tastes as good as feeling good,
life
and being
yes.
thinner. Yeah, and also
so I eat a lot of seafood. I eat a lot of like sushi and tuna sashimi and shrimp and a lot of chicken protein and stuff like that. And I keep it together. So and I will say, as you get older, even when you lose weight, everything starts shifting. Like I was trying to like talk to my friends about this. Like no one ever talks about how like the 50s are just messy as shit. They like everybody talk about the 40s, like, and I was like, Judd Apatow talking about this is 50. Like, yeah, talk about it. It's messy. It's just messy. Like everything's just you're not old yet, but anyway.
Exactly, you're not young anymore. No, Susan Eisenberg, cartoon Wonder Woman, a good friend.
Yeah.
She, I forget what ailment I had in my 50s, and I'm like, Sus, once we hit our 50s, shit starts falling off, and it's true. It's just like all of a sudden out of nowhere, it's like, what? You got what? Okay, and it's you have to adjust. And again, it is hard, but one day at a time. And truly, counting calories is a big step in the right direction. And you don't have to start at 2,000. I mean, again, if you're that heavy at 400 and stuff, try to get down to 3,000 calories a day. I mean, whatever is less. And truly, if you keep track of it, you'll be mindful of it rather than that mindless kind of just chomping on stuff. So and also I was already like, even when I was at my heaviest, I was like a big bike rider. Like I was that's awesome.
I was biking crazy. And just so people know, like one I think I talked about it here, but the day I decided to just finally lose the weight, like I used to do this thing where I go on like a big ass long bike ride and eat all night, right? And then I was in New York with David Mack, and we rented bikes and we rode our bikes from Midtown all the way to Brooklyn, and we did like just rode around where Miles Morales would live, and just we're taking it in and getting photo reference and looking for beats of stuff we would find story for, like just looking at the reality of it. And we were on our bikes like 9 hours, and we rolled back over the Brooklyn Bridge, and we got home, and we were just wasted. And I know it was hot. I literally lost 10 pounds right there. And then I got back to my room, and for the first time ever, I said, hey, what if I don't eat a plate of cookies? Well, what will I look like tomorrow if I don't eat a plate of cookies right now? And yes, I'm saying a plate of cookies. It would have been a plate.
I'm hip. No.
And then I waited like a week, and I lost a lot of weight fucking fast. Like my body was screaming, don't need it. Right. And then losing the weight got really easy. Like surprisingly easy. Once you just decide in your head that you're not losing out on anything, and this is all good, and you like how you look. And also the other fun thing was, I was so heavy and I was riding my bike that once I lost the weight, I'd get on my bike and take off, and I was riding so fast because my muscles were used to dragging my ass around, and it wasn't there anymore. And I go, "Ooh, slow down!" So I was like my speed zone was intense. So
Speaking of which, Ace wants to know if Superman and Flash were both to go all out, no punches pulled, who would win in a fight?
Superman.
That's it. All right, Superman. Fair enough. There you go. That's
Superman.
Simple. Sorry. It's so funny. That's hilarious.
No, what's funny is that I say Superman, and then someone's just gonna rip my ass off on Twitter later. Just I'm a bastard for saying it, but everyone knows I'm right.
No, I understand it. I used to, goddamn, again, classic stories over the years, not only in the comics, but even, God, I loved it in Smallville when Bart showed up and was running with Clark and everything. No, that's cool. And even as much as both the Snyder cut and the Whedon cuts of Justice League infuriated me, I did like Flash and Superman.
Really? Why? What?
Yeah, I know. Whatever. It's all good. Good Lord. Don't even get me started on Star Trek. Although I will say real fast, because I know Elisa loves it, loves Star Trek in general.
I heard Strange New Worlds is really good.
It's really good. It's really good.
And
There are
you're a prickly. You've become a prickly pear in the Star Trek universe. So
can't help it, man.
I get.
It's my dude. You'll appreciate this being a Sorkin fan. All right, forgive the Star Trek tangent, everybody. I got a West Wing rerun on as wallpaper while I'm editing a podcast, and I had totally forgotten about this scene. Josh Lyman, as you know, Assistant Chief of Staff Bradley Whitford, tells his assistant Donna, "Hey, we got a woman who wears a Star Trek pin to work every day. Tell her to stop. That's not professional." And it becomes this awesome like C plot in the hour. And the woman is like, "You just don't get it." And she's like, Star Trek is just like what we're trying to do. Star Trek is about being civic-minded and doing good things for the common good. And Bradley Whitford goes into a great Sorkin speech about Star Trek. And I never paid attention to this before, but he literally says, "Listen, I'm a music fan. I'm a sports fan. I'm also a Star Trek fan. But you know what I don't do? Let's list our 10 favorite episodes. Let's list our at least 10 favorite episodes. Which Cardassian or Romulan do you think would be interesting in a romantic relationship? Whatever." And he just does this laundry list of Trek references. And he goes, "That's not being a fan. That's having a fetish." And he goes, "It's okay to have a hobby. Don't bring your hobbies to work." And he goes, "Got it?" And she laughs and smiles and goes, "Got it." And he goes, "Unless it's a Star Trek national holiday." And she goes, "There's no national Star Trek holidays." He goes, "Let's work hard here, and maybe we can make some." And that was 20 years ago. And now we got First Contact Day, and we've got Star Trek Day in September. So it kills me. And also, I was dying. I'm like, I don't think I have a fetish, but I'm pretty goddamn close when it comes to Star Trek because it really,
it's okay. But yeah, by the way, I don't like that's a very Sorkin thing to like label anybody who's too much of a fan is a.
It's all right.
Everyone, your fanness can manifest any way you want. Also, number one, that's definitely 20 years ago because now everyone just wears all their shit like proudly, everywhere. Like there's not which is amazing because I remember like even when like 15 years ago, I go to a mall and you could tell who my people were. Like you go anywhere, any restaurant, you go, yeah, that's one of my people. Like they're wearing a Captain America T-shirt. Now everyone does. So it's hard to know, who's who.
I got that in radio when the CW shows started happening, and even the Netflix Marvel shows. And the secretaries would pull me, to a corner and be like, "Explain Reverse Flash to me," and I'm like, "Happy to, no problem." And it's so funny, but yeah, I love it. I love that. Yeah, it's real. It's the way that
we now
our stuff has been embraced. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, we live in a world where the stuff trends that like Jimmy Woo was trending during WandaVision and like Jimmy Woo. In a million years, did you think Jimmy Woo would trend? Like, yeah, so that's
and it's great. Absolutely, man. No, I agree with you. Someone asked earlier, as we're on the subject of DC and Marvel shows, what'd you think of Moon Knight? They wanted to know.
Oh, I'm halfway through, and I really like it so far. Like me and my son are watching it. So far, I love it.
Oh, that's great. London's into it. That's great.
I always, London, yeah. I will say, I should say. So London lives a weird life. London's like, particularly in our. He's a 9-year-old boy. He loves superheroes. He's really into the stories. He's totally into it. Our bubble is Matt Fraction, Kelly Sue. So everyone around him had a hand in this stuff. Like Hawkeye was Uncle Matt's show. It's strange. Everything's weird to him. So I try not to like overdo it with who did what and where and who, blah, blah, blah. But he came up to me last week and he goes, "Hey, Dad, is Illuminati one of yours?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Good one," and walked away. And I went, "I'm taking it. I'm walking away." That was it.
Yeah, man.
So, so Moon Knight, I like a lot. I also, it was so nice, we were talking about earlier, Moon Knight, me and Alex's Moon Knight book was the #1 book last month on like ICM or whatever. I was like, oh, and it's so weird because like, again, I haven't seen the end yet, so no one's spoiler, but like, it's not our Moon Knight that's being adapted into that show at all. So it's weird that our Moon Knight did so well in the backlist because of the show. So I'm delighted to have a new audience on that work. So, it was one of those books that like I think Joe came to me and challenged me with it, said, "You, Alex, Moon Knight." And I went, "Ooh," right? And then may have muttered something about you can do your goddamn Batman there, uh, and so I did. I brought the Moon Knight pitch that we did to the retreat, and it was one of the better received ones. Like at the retreat, like people who normally hate my shit came up to me and said, "That's pretty good." So I'm very happy to have a new audience on that too, and you know, that's one of the biggest delights that has come into my life in this stage of my career, is that this work is out there and it lives its own life, and it comes back to you in weird and fun ways, and people are discovering it like it's new. Like someone on Twitter, like I wrote, "Oh, that's 11 years ago," and they go, "Oh, it is?" Like they had no idea it was an old comic. Like there was nothing about it that seemed old to them. So it's amazing to have this work just out there living its life, being, and I try to teach this to our students too. Like you're putting energy out in the world. Like you think you're telling a story, but you're actually putting some, like a ball of energy out in the world, and it goes on, does stuff all by itself. It's fantastic. And then you got a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar coming at you, you know?
I'm with you. Green Shadow, and I don't, I know the continuity of this. Can I express my only gripe with something you wrote? Yeah. How the hell was
you don't
Electro...
ever want me correcting your spelling, buddy. That's a dark day in your life. I'm sorry.
How the hell was Electro aware of Daredevil's identity and the Defenders? Other than that, I absolutely love your work. What are you talking about, man? Man Without Fear. You know, yeah, they knew each other in college.
She knew before everybody. Like she knew in the Frank Miller run.
Right.
Like that's even past my run. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, man. No, it's no, that's part of Electro and Daredevil's history. That's why they're awesome. That's
if you haven't read Frank Miller's Daredevil run or any of his work with the character Elektra for the Elektra saga, I think that's where you'll find most of that material. I highly, highly recommend it. I'm excited for you to check that out if you haven't yet.
Right, so. and just like in it was the backstory of the Daredevil Netflix series that Matt and Elektra knew each other and were both trained by Stick. So they
knew each other. No secret.
Absolutely, man. So did you like Dr. Strange?
I always had a heart palpitation. I go, oh shit, did I remember all that wrong?
Yeah, no. And Lewis wanted to know regarding Clark's daughter. Apparently, in your Superman run issue 9, you did write a panel where Superman had a look at a vision from the future where a girl calls him dad and John lost an eye. What was that?
What was that? That was a vision that he was receiving, and that vision could have been his own manifestation of what he sees as his future, or it could be like I feel, and other writers have done that Superman's powers by themselves bring on other sensory perception. Like you can't have X-ray vision and heat vision and blah, blah, and not also have like an extra perception of the world and your place in it. And like we've all had dreams of our future or dreams of things that I think has manifest into a hard reality that may or may not come true. So though I had no plans for a daughter, doesn't mean a daughter isn't planning, but I think that's how Clark perceived a version of his future, or it is a look into his future. It absolutely 100% is where it's going. And he got a glimpse of it, a la Raising Arizona. And you think like, what kind of like mystic bullshit? Raising Arizona does this perfectly, and I've stolen from it a couple of times. It's a person that sees their future so clearly, but they can't even imagine how it could get there. But they have a moment in a dream or a moment of crisis where they see it. So it's a Raising Arizona moment. And if you haven't seen Raising Arizona, I'm excited for you on that too.
Great movie. Absolutely. And again, I don't know if Philip was thinking of this when he did Future State, but I do kind of love where he puts Superman in the future, where he's got so many other children, and that some of them are of alien mix and stuff. And again, their backstories haven't been fleshed out, but there really are several generations of Superman children along with Superman in his Future State run, which I thought was very intriguing. And again,
and what we're talking about is this what I loved what I continue to love, and what I thought was part of my job when I got Superman, is that it felt like, and then Marvel has this too, where the X-Men universe is so large, it's almost like its own Marvel universe, separate from all the other superheroes, right? Or it can certainly sustain itself on story without the other shared parts. It feels like Batman has become that to the DC universe. Like the Batman universe is enormous, and then the other characters all have their universe as well. But Batman's is way bigger than everyone else. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if the mythology around Superman's stories and the family expanded to the same size, or was a peer of what had happened organically and naturally to the Batman family over decades of storytelling, right? So part of that was, there's a cycle of story with Superman that I broke. That's part of what people get frustrated with me a little bit about. Like, it was decades of, it was Lex Luthor the whole time, and I never did that. It was like I witnessed that as a cycle, and I go, okay, let's stop that for a while and see what else we can find. Maybe it'll be sucky, maybe it won't be great, but we know what happens when Lex Luthor shows up. Let's do this other thing. So
Sure.
Philip is doing that, Tom is doing that, a lot of other writers are doing it as well, where there's this, so everyone's like trying to be additive to the Superman mythology today, modern, not like, because we all grew up with it, like, yeah, people our age saw a big chunk of it in the late 70s with the movie, and it happened in the comics as well, where there was a lot of additive stuff happening. And then it's, now is another time to do it again. And so some of it I feel is directly in response to the movie we all wish we were getting. You know what I mean? Like, I think we're all like, every once in a while I see someone tweet, well, where's the Superman movie on par with the Spider-Man movie, right? Or the Batman movie. And so and Man of Steel is 8 years old.
Yeah,
it's been a while. I was at Marvel fully entrenched when Man of Steel came out, so it's been a long time. So, and I know there's a TV show. I'm talking about that epic like event that people were expecting around a character like Superman. So I think a lot of the comics are reflecting that desire, and I know in my heart, I have no insider information, that this usually brings about the movie. Like I get like something cooking right now in the comics that are being made are gonna bring the energy to a movie that's gonna be amazing. I hope.
I understand.
But it has happened before. It happened to Transformers, happened like the whole Marvel universe. Like, the energy in the comics brings out some cinematic idea that grabs a generation.
Green Shadow says, clarification, in Mark Waid's run of DD, everybody forgot Daredevil's identity with the help of the Proper Children. That's why in the Bendis Defenders, Matt had to reveal it to Luke, Jess, and Danny, but Elektra knew it.
Because I went with Elektra knew it. Yeah, you're reminding me. I went with Elektra knew it. Like, that wasn't part of his outing. That was part of his life.
Right. College. I'm with you. No, I think that's fair. I absolutely.
That's my bullshit answer. that was really my answer.
But again, writers try some things. They later down the line, another writer will tweak it in some way. And and I love Mark, and I love Mark's Daredevil run. But it's like I think Elektra needs to be part of Matt's life and be that close to Matt that she knows. I mean, it's just it's like Foggy.
But I both with Daredevil and Superman, blown away with how long they kept that status quo. When we outed Daredevil, I was stunned that went for like a couple of generations of readers. That was amazing. Sure. And Superman too. They stuck with it.
Yep.
No. Okay. Fantastic.
Just talked to. But I haven't. Go ahead.
No, I'm just to say that it wasn't done for shock value. It was done with where are we now? They literally just took the last phone booths out of New York this week. Like, phone booths aren't a thing that exists on our planet. So having a guy go into a phone booth and change his clothes, it's just these characters must evolve with the world that we live in. So that was the point, and may it bring us all this new story. And that's what's happened. And I'm so glad they still see that.
I'm with you, man. No, I was going to say Philip. In fact, one of his most recent action issues has Superman: A World, and he's kind of keeping a personal journal. And he starts with, "My name is Clark Kent," and it's like, yeah, I mean, it's like, no, he thinks of himself as Clark. So it is kind of cool that it's
yeah. I mean, that. Even though I stayed a little longer than I meant to, that's the only thing I'd love to keep poking at is what Clark's life is like.
Now.
But some very good writers are working on it, and also that informs the John Kent storyline in a great way, but still makes it his. These are sometimes harder to do than you think, so it's amazing when it works out like that. That's pretty great.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, because I never do is something like. I never did any of these bits to like do a cheap thrill. It was always like, I think there's a lot of story behind this door, right? I think there's an enormous amount of story behind Superman not having an identity anymore, right? But I will say, I saw a lot of late night talk shows do a lot of Superman jokes about the last phone booth. I go, you people need to read your comics. Sorry.
This is what happens.
That was 4 years ago.
It is so sad when I'm downtown and I'm in a big building and you see where the bank of payphones were, and it's just an empty space now, and it's like, yeah, man, no, shit's moved on, and I get it.
Well, I am watching movies with my kids, and now you know Sabrina's 14 now, so we're like, showing her some, like, we were watching Scream. She loves horror, but like watching Scream. Cool. And literally pause the movie and go, "What is she holding?" I go, "Oh, that's a phone."
Sure.
Yeah, and and in the middle of that movie, there's a blockbuster scene. Remember, there's the big scene where they're telling the rules of horror movies, but they're in a blockbuster. She literally pauses the movie. Where are they? What is that? I go, that's a video store. I go, what? I go, we used to go to the video store, rent a movie. I literally talked her all the way through it, and you had to take it back, and and that's why you got your movie. Like, you saw how you wanted Apple TV and just picked one of a million movies. We had to go to the store, pick our movie, and that was our movie. And then we take it home and rewind it, and we take it back.
We loved it. Exactly.
And and then she goes, well, no wonder that place went out of business. It's a terrible business model. I go, no, it wasn't this place. There was a million of them. So
that's like one of the best scenes in the Captain Marvel 90s movie, where it's set in the 90s and she crashes in a blockbuster and everything. I was going to say another great anachronistic thing now. I bought a Matchbox car that is a red Daily Planet delivery truck. And on the side is a headline, Superman Saves the World. And it's so awesome. And it's from like 1978 or 79. Fantastic. And it's like, that's not going to make sense if it doesn't already make sense. And it's fantastic. And it was dirt cheap. I bought it for like under $10. It's so great.
That's amazing.
So yeah, sad but true, man. So did you like Doctor Strange?
Oh yeah, I did. No, I'm kind of floored by the Illuminati being in a movie. I know you. I hope this doesn't sound disingenuous, because that's really I can't believe how much of our stuff ends up in these films, and what an honor it is. Like some of this stuff was built at the time. I mean, maybe we said it on this show. Like, I'm creating things that I don't think can be shown in movies. Like I don't think this legally can happen in a movie. And at the time, it couldn't. The X-Men were over here, Fantastic Four over there.
The Fox Disney divide, absolutely.
Yeah, so even having Wolverine and Spider-Man on the Avengers, I remember I even said this can't happen legally in the real world, so we can do it here. And so to see all the pieces come together where something like that could happen, pretty great, pretty amazing.
It's funny, Jimmy. I was going to ask Brian if he's watching this, and I've been texting him about it. You write a lot about the classic mob. Are you watching the real life story of the making of The Godfather called The Offer? It's not really the real life story, Jimmy, but I'll let Brian answer.
Yeah, sit back, because this is the rest of the podcast. This show, the writer is Michael Tolkien, who also wrote The Player, and I'm a big fan of his.
Sure.
So it confuses me why this show is the way it is. You and I have read every article and book there was ever written about the making of The Godfather, every
Yes, sir.
documentary. So we know
Yes,
the real
yes.
story, and we know how great it is. And though there are parts of this, I mean, listen, I'm watching this show.
It's fun.
Vigorously. I am
Yeah,
all
it's fun.
in. It is such garbage, and it
is cheese, but it's fun.
Oh, I don't want it to be, and I don't like shitting. It's like a trashy pulp novel of this great story, and every once in a while, and I'd say even once an episode, something really great happens in the episode. That dinner scene with Coppola and the cast, improving their way into the characters.
Yep.
Beautiful. Yes. But then there's this other shit. I can't. Why is the mob stuff being directed in Scorsese language? It is full on Scorsese camera shots and language and music cues that did not exist back then and did not apply to those people, other than you're trying to like make us feel about them like that. But there's an actual visual language that would apply to them, like a more late 60s, early 70s, almost like British crime drama, like visual language that would apply to their story. That would be interesting as well. But instead, we're getting this Scorsese Goodfellas stuff in the early 70s. I don't understand. I'm dying for someone to ask the question. But I will say, on the flip side, Winning Time on HBO,
the Lakers show,
the Lakers show. I fucking loved this Lakers show,
and that's a cartoon as well. But continue.
I know, but here's the thing: I don't know all the details of this one. Like I was like Matt was flipping out about it, and I said, I think I like it even more than you, because I actually don't even know if they win. Like I don't even know.
I understand it's all fresh.
I don't know any of the details.
Sure.
So I'm just enjoying it as a story. And even I said, I bet that guy in real life is super pissed how he's being presented in this story. And the next day he was like, I hate this. And
Kareem, very even-handed review, definitely lets you know, all right, there's a lot of fiction here, but I think was, again, very diplomatic in like, I get it, it's fiction and it's whatever. My buddy Rodney Barnes, who is like one of my favorite people in television and comics, is one of the
I don't know the
producers.
Guy.
Dude, you'd love him. Terrific guy. And he's writing Philadelphia with Jason Scott Alexander and everything.
I've read it.
But the Lakers thing is great. And it's funny that you compare it, The Offer, to Winning Time, because I love those moments in Winning Time where they cut to that grainy, almost archival looking footage. And I asked him about that. I'm like, why are in these segments, does it look like a porn movie from the 70s? I love it. And he told me they're using a camera that was made in the 70s.
Oh, for sure they are.
Yeah. And he said he's watching it with his kids, and you can appreciate this because it's just like the conversation you described with Sabrina. And they're like, there must be something wrong with the TV, Dad. The picture went grainy. He's like, no, it's supposed to be like that. That's first of all, in both shows, Winning Time and The Offer, the actors are making a meal of what they're being given. Giovanni Ribisi,
Matthew Good is killing it as Robert Evans. And by the way, but I did have a moment in my head where I realized that there's another world where Bob Odenkirk could have played all of these parts in like a Nutty Professor kind of tour de force.
Sure.
He could play all of them.
Absolutely. So. No, but Ribisi, oh my God, I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to like him in this role, but he's fantastic. And the other one, I don't remember his name.
I'm not with you on Ribisi.
It's interesting.
It's like he's doing an imitation of Natasha Lyonne being. I don't know. It's.
How about I don't remember the actor's name, and forgive me for the old reference. Over the years, this guy's a great character actor. First thing I ever saw him in was Fame, and he's a character that you discover during the movie is gay. But he also was Pete Conrad during Tom Hanks' From the Earth to the Moon, the Apollo 12 commander. And he is the studio executive, Jack. And I forget the real guy's name, but he's kind of one of the guys that has it out for Ruddy and
not Tom Hanks' son, not Colin Hanks.
No, Colin Hanks is fantastic in this, by the way. But no,
he's very good.
He's fantastic in this. And it's the first Dick part that I've seen him in, and I'm like, wow, he's really good.
Oh,
No, this guy's bald and glasses, and it's this great character actor that he was on Wise Guy in the 80s. He did Fame in the late 70s when he was a kid, and like I said, Earth to the Moon in the 90s. And goddamn, I saw him, and he's wearing glasses, so it's kind of hidden. And also, his voice is lower. Maybe he's acting, and maybe his voice has really gone that low. But I was like, oh my god, it's so and so, and I'm like, Jesus Christ!
Or he saw Giovanni Ribisi talking like this, and he thought that's what everyone has to do. This is what we got to do on the show now. Talk like this.
Anyway. Oh, that's funny. Jimmy says, but it's Dan Fogler, but he says Miles Teller is so good as Ruddy, but Dan Fogler is great as Coppola. Yeah, it's fun. Again, it's fun. So
listen. I highly recommend the show. I've watched every second of it, but there's recommendations and just there's so many good books about the making of The Godfather.
True.
It's so well told. Watch Heart of Darkness if you haven't seen it, the documentary about the making of Apocalypse Now, because it bleeds into some of the characters that you're seeing here now, so you can meet the real people. And I think that's why you'll see why we're having. It's like watching The Late Shift. Remember The Late Shift with Letterman? Of
course, I did the HBO movie about Leno and Letterman.
I devoured this book. I could repeat it to you verbatim, and then that TV show came out where everyone's kind of doing Letterman and kind of doing Leno. Yeah, it's yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, man. That's what. Also, the guy who plays Charlie Bluthorn, the head of Gulf Western that owns Paramount, another British actor that is just fantastic. That's the thing. And also the woman that plays Al Ruddy's assistant. They're all Brits. Matthew Good, Bluthorn guy, and she. They're great.
But if we want to put on a writer teacher hat for a moment, that's the part that pisses me off. Is that Betsy is a really interesting character in real life. And the way they're positioning her in the show, she has all the good ideas. She's the one that gets him to think to go down the braver path. We don't know a goddamn thing about her. And then they keep, again, I'm too behind, so maybe we get there. But people keep asking, who are you? Well, how did you get here? What do you like about movies? And then she doesn't answer. So she's just like this vessel of story that moves the scenes along for Miles Teller's character. And I can't believe in this day and age that we have a story out where the woman character is there to make the man character feel better about things or to help him along, or like and we know from Ted Lasso, she could do anything that's being offered her in this thing. So I'm hoping that we reveal something in her character that makes her more than what she is right now, which is highly underwritten.
I am with Bruce Cambosis on this observation of an older show, but it was one of my favorites. Underrated TV show that most people don't know about is Banshee on HBO Max. I watched it when it was on Cinemax. It's a great show. It's a fantastic show.
And the reason I know about Banshee is because quite a few of the technicians on Banshee and our cinematographer worked on Powers Season 2. Which the good season. And but those really crackling visuals and cinematography that we share that with Banshee. Like that show is way better looking than people may remember, and all those people came to us and did the same thing. So with you totally on that. I've watched more Banshee than you think I would have because of my collaborations.
No, that whole cast was terrific, and I love the writing, and I love the cinematography. I think it's a fantastic show. And yes, if you haven't seen it before, I forget how many seasons it was on Cinemax, but it's all on HBO Max, and it's fantastic. So, God, we're about to enter this incredible month with June. Boys are coming back. The Orville's coming back. Are you and Elisa? Are you guys Orville fans or no?
Elisa is 100% on the Orville. She watches the Orville for like comfort. So I know that's a big one. In my heart, the best. It's like
Orville. Tell me.
I wanted the Orville to be what Avenue 5 is, or that's what it's called, right?
I know what you're talking about. That HBO. Yeah.
That's what I wanted from it, which isn't like he's doing what he wants to do on the Orville.
Right.
I wanted the darker path, and I'm getting it on Avenue 5, and we're getting a second season. So, yeah.
What I love about,
I highly recommend.
if I were Disney, I would be watching this. I really hope that they are happy with this third season, and I hope people come and watch the Orville because, as Jimmy says, it's the best Star Trek out right now. I would agree with that. It's very much like Galaxy Quest in terms of they're taking the best stuff from Star Trek and having fun. I think so. And also, if I'm Disney, it's like this is a franchise waiting to explode if handled correctly. And goddamn, they got so many people behind the camera that know what they're doing when it comes to that kind of sci-fi action adventure show. They present interesting ideas. I love
I'll have to check it out
really
again.
improved in that second season. Yeah.
I'll have to check it out again. I literally had like I wanted like Ted of Star Trek out of him, and that's not what he wanted to do. Like, but in my head, I just totally assumed that's what it was, and went there. Yeah. So I'll check it out again.
And I agree with Mike as well on Apple. Do either of you watch For All Mankind? Absolutely, I watch For All Mankind.
I will.
That's coming back.
I haven't. It's coming back, and I haven't yet. And I know some stuff from behind the scenes on that I'm really excited to see if they pulled off. There's so much stuff. There's so much stuff.
The Boys is coming back.
Good stuff.
Yeah, and Only Murders in the Building season 2 at the end of the month.
Yeah.
I know.
We're in the zenith of murder comedy shows, The After Party, Murderville, Only Murders in the Building.
I'm so with you. Absolutely. I
also we haven't discussed the George Carlin documentary.
Talk to me.
Check it out.
Of course I did. Absolutely I did. And it gave me
it got to me harder than even the Gary Shandling one.
The Shandling one
that was possible. Yep.
Well, it's an even darker story, sadly, all of George's personal demons and the stuff that his whole family had to go through. And when they released the last DVD box set that finally had all the HBO specials, including the last two, and also a ton of early Carlin stuff from the 60s and 70s, I got to interview Kelly Carlin about 5 years ago. And George's daughter.
Right.
And God, she's great. And really a lot. I'm proud to say that a lot of the beats of the documentary are the parts of Carlin's life and career that I wanted to talk about, and just how this man was able to reinvent himself, if not 5 times, at least 3 different times. And man, that good Lord. And I know you and I are close enough in age that in the 80s where it felt like George was kind of slipping and kind of becoming a self-parody, and Rick Moranis was making fun of him. And it's so great that Carlin saw that and said, all right, I got to shift gears. I got to do something different. And that I always say it started with Back in Town. I guess they make allusions that it started with the special before that. What am I doing here in New Jersey? But man, it was just like the guy just started sprinting in his late 50s or 60s, and he just had it till the end. And my God, as everyone points out, the stuff that he talks about is still prescient today. And he sees through all the bullshit. And it's so fantastic.
Amazing. If you and to connect the dots a little bit, I just posted this in my newsletter tonight, actually. Judd Apatow did a conversation with Jon Stewart in promotion of this documentary. And it starts great. They're talking about George Carlin, all the stuff you want to hear them talk about. And then they pivot because Jon Stewart was in the writer's room and the star of the last season of the Larry Sanders Show, which was in complete chaos because Gary Shandling was suing everybody, and the show was coming to an abrupt end. And so they spend most of the conversation talking about that. And what it was like. And it's a real deep dive, and it was delightful. So if you loved all the nonsense we're talking about, this conversation blew me away, filled with shit I didn't know about.
Is it on John's podcast, or is it?
It's on the John's podcast. It's also on YouTube. I literally just posted the link in my newsletter. So
that's great. Shame on me. All right, very cool. I'm going to check it out. And also I saw at the end of Pearl your list of No Life recommendations, and Fly on the Wall, the SNL podcast. I'm so with you. And also, especially as a guy who does voices, it is such a pleasure to not only hear Dana Carvey break down voices, but James Austin Johnson, who does an excellent Trump, and everybody knows it, and that's great. And it's funny because both I again individually, and I forgive me for putting myself with Dana Carvey, but we're both like cracking the code on Michael Caine based on Rob Brydon and those Trip movies. And it's so great to hear him do it. And it's like, yeah, man, that's the I came to the same conclusions of how to do the voice. It's amazing. And really, hosts, writers, former cast members, if you don't watch Flying, I know Brian listens to it every
Oh
Wednesday.
my God,
It's
so
amazing.
good.
Yes.
It's so good. And every week you're like surprised. Who are they going to get? Because they could literally get anybody from pop culture because Saturday Night Live touches everything. So you get like Jeff Goldblum, who hosted some like controversial episodes back in the day. And then the
Drew
next
Barrymore.
episode is Jim Downey, who is
Downey's
like one of the
fantastic.
great writers of all time, who you never hear interviewed. Never does an interview. There's no book on him. And he was the head writer of Letterman in the early days and head writer of all the great moments of Saturday Night Live. And you're like, God, that was the best conversation. I never knew any of that stuff.
No.
Like, he's the one that said, like Norm Macdonald was able to keep his job, but he wouldn't because Jim was getting fired for it. So he went with Jim. I didn't know that. I've heard that story 50 times. I didn't know that Norm walked out of the building in hand with his writer. It's been, oh my God, that's amazing.
I'm with you, man. And I'm so psyched.
Anyway, yeah, I highly recommend. But isn't it interesting how low rent that show is? How like badly edited it is? It's a professional hit podcast. It does numbers, right? It's a top 10 podcast. And I don't know. It's just like the end is all choppy. It's just so punk and slapped together. It's so funny.
It is punk. No, you're right. Well, go ahead.
No, I was just saying they're barely good at interviewing. They can't, like Yeah,
but we're just like, I hope the vibe from Word Balloon is everyone is sitting in on this amazing conversation. And that's what I want, because it's not an interview. It's really them reminiscing and having new ideas about things. And got Drew Barrymore. I was like, all right, I'll sit through Drew Barrymore. It was great.
Oh, no, it was
great.
Fantastic.
And I have a lot more respect for Drew Barrymore than I did a few years ago,
Say again, I'm sorry, you broke up.
Oh, I said I have more respect for Drew Barrymore than I did from her talk show debut. But I'm like, no, listen to her. She is a much more mature person than I gave her credit for, and also has a lot of interesting insight. And I love that. I think that's terrific.
My favorite part of the show is that the guests often come prepared to talk about Saturday Night Live, and they never let them. And the John Hamm episode, the Dennis Miller episode was really interesting, really interesting, because he's been painted from the get-go as the biggest jerk at the show. Like, everyone talks about how Dennis Miller busted their balls, blah, blah, blah. For him to come in and talk about it all, that was fantastic. I was really, I've never seen anything like that before. I was like a big Dennis Miller fan in the 80s, like huge. So
in the 90s too, when he had his HBO show. It was terrific.
Yeah,
it was television.
Yeah.
And then, after 9/11, he just took literally a right turn. And it's like, okay. I mean, again, everyone's entitled to their own path and opinions and stuff. But yeah, it's like, all right. It just seemed like because I appreciated when he would not only pick on and make fun of people like Mike Farrell, who's very a liberal in his beliefs and everything, from MASH, BJ from MASH, but also when he had Charlton Heston on, I'm hip, but I'm saying for the listeners too, if they don't know Mike Farrell by name. But when he had Charlton Heston on, and it was before Charlton Heston really got old and sadly a little senile at the end, but he made a crack about the pro-gun, the anti-gun people, and called them the Bradys, like the Brady Bunch. And Miller's like, hey man, wait a minute, Jim Brady is a good guy, and all he was doing was his job. He gets gunned down protecting being part of Reagan's troop. And he's like, don't say that. And I miss that, Dennis. I miss that down the line, Dennis Miller. And sadly now it's all on the right, and everybody on the left is a joke. And it's like, I liked you better when you.
I don't even know what his stuff is like now. I don't even know what his stuff is like now. I haven't heard it, and like he's doing it with what's his face? I got fired from Fox. I can't remember.
O'Reilly,
yeah, like him and O'Reilly are all teamed up. I'm not gonna listen to that. I'm not interested.
Well, that's the thing, man. It's like, come on. Oh, that's he's like, I think we're all waiting for Carlos Mencia to make a comeback. Yeah, maybe not. Radium Theater Production has a question about Naomi, the comic.
Yeah.
Season 2 has her returning from her time on a Justice League to her father being somewhat untrustworthy. What made you change up the dynamic after the first run was a very happy family?
Well, I appreciate that. Also, I know there's some weirdness online. Like the comic book Naomi continues. Like that
Yes.
book will continue even though the show is no longer. So
Yes.
you're going to get to all of this will be revealed. I'm happy to
Okay.
say, and we made our choices separate from the show, and I'm very happy about that. That was a good choice, and so we get to unfold it all. So our feeling, David and I and Jamal also had a lot of input on the plot this time, was that this is like, a lot of these stories that we tell are like using the superhero ideas to get to the heart of a real world issue, right? And so when your kids grow up, new challenges reveal themselves that you did not see coming when they were 9 years old, right? Like you don't know where they're headed, and so here's this no spoilers. I'm sorry if I read Naomi, turn it off now. But in the first volume, we find out that Naomi's adopted father is a space alien soldier from Ron. So he's part of the Ron-Thanagarian War, like a benchmark in the DC Universe epics. And he's survived that war, and now he's on Earth. And so he's living a peaceful life. And then all of a sudden, his adopted daughter, oh no, she's right in the middle of all this cataclysmic stuff. And I know everyone raises their kids differently, but even today I woke up and I'm like, oh, you guys are teenagers. Shit, in my head you're like little babies. I wake up and they're babies, and I go downstairs like, oh, they're teenagers. Shit. So it's hard sometimes to see a young adult that was your child and not see them as a child. So his first instinct is, you can't be in the Justice League. You're a baby. Right. And that's, of course, not true, but that's honestly his perception. And now, so what we're watching is him coming to terms with this new reality, none of which he signed on for, none of which they saw coming. And also it reveals, obviously, he is from deep PTSD from what has happened to him. And he, like many people who have come back from battle, he does not want his daughter to suffer the same stresses and anxieties that he is plagued with. So he is trying to help, but he's not helping. He's making it worse because he's in a panic because he's trying to tell her all the things no one told him. And like, if people go off to war, I mean, like Born on the 4th of July, the book and the movie does this perfectly. You go to war. Oh, no one told us any of this. And it's what happened to him. And now he's back, and now his daughter, and I don't know if the issue has come out yet, and I apologize if I'm spoiling, but he does say to her, when you leave the house, you're not going to the mall. And I worry that something bad's going to happen to the mall, like a normal parent. You're going to war. You're going to fight bad guys with Superman and Batman. It's not an abstract idea. It's not a concept that I'm worried about. It's actually what's happening. So I think I'm reacting pretty normal to the fact that every time you leave the house, I don't know if you're coming back, and you don't have all your powers together, and you don't have the experience these people have. And so that story is about, I don't want to spoil the end for you, but there's more to this that's going on. But that is why, but what you're seeing is a family wrestling with a stressful dilemma. They're not fighting with each other. They're trying to get through it together. And that sometimes can be harder than fighting with each other. Like we're all rooting for this to go a certain way, but we all have to be on the same page. Oh, are we? So that's the story that we're trying to tell. And we do land the plane at the end of this storyline. So I hope you let me know what you think.
Is this another 12-issue storyline?
It's 6 issues. The first one was 6 issues too. So 6 issues. season 1, 6-issue season 2.
Season 2.
There's a lot of Naomi story going Justice League as well. We actually go to visit her planet. There's kind of like a mini event with her in the middle, right? And so you did get a lot of FaceTime in Justice League and Young Justice, but yeah, it's really 2 6-issue miniseries.
Understood.
Beautiful stuff.
Ramsey is one of my favorite Star Trek fans, and I keep forgetting that he is writing comics as well. He's writing the new Spider-Man UK. Do you have any advice for a new? Yeah. Do you have any advice for a new Spider Marvel writer?
Yeah, I'll easier said than done. But I say now that I look back on a big ass long run on Spider-Man, and I'm as I told you, I'm like writing a book on this stuff, so I'm giving it some thought. And I did come to the realization that I am far more prouder of the original things I added to it than the things I wrote that I just loved from other people. That's it. That's and I think it's the mixture of the two things that made the book what it was for me and for others, that it was a mixture of new things and reimagined classic things. Some of it by design and some of it just by gut feeling. But now that it's all said and done, that's the stuff I'm most proud of. That's the stuff that people pat me on the back for, is the original stuff. And what the lessons that were brought to me by Joe and others when I walked in the door, that were indoctrinated in me so hard that I really held to them by like a religion, was try not to write any comics about other comics. That's a big one. I mean, that sounds like a weird thing to say, but there are a lot of comics that just recap other comics or tell them again, or but not with any kind of like new twist to it. It's just they're doing it again. And yeah, there's an audience for that, but you're talking writer to writer. Stay in the moment, be with those characters in the moment, not thinking about classic storylines that you loved back in the day. And if you can, at the same time, this is contradictory thing, touch all the toys. Any toy that you like, this is your chance. Play with them. All right. Because cool. I'm done. I'm not going to play with the toys anymore. But I played with all of them. I did. I felt I could leave. I done what I came to do. So if you feel like, boy, I love Nick Fury, I love Doctor Strange, I love whatever power pack, whatever it is that really gets you, you feel like you have something you really want to do with it, get them in there. Have fun with it.
That's awesome. Radium Theater Productions asks a quick Legion question. Was your Trial of the Legion, with each page having a different artist, inspired by issue 300 of Legion with different artists of time periods with Farrell Ed's brother? And what was your favorite page?
Ooh, what's my favorite page? But somewhat great pull on that one. The Legion, the different artists on every page was, number one, I love Ryan Sook. And I just want to keep Ryan Sook on the book. And he's not a monthly guy. And he's not a monthly guy in a Batman. He's certainly not a monthly guy in the 34 lead characters and designing. And we had the best time working together. So anytime he needed a break, I felt I had to come up with something better than Ryan. And what's better than Ryan? 40 people. like that's how much it takes to be better than Ryan. And so it was, and then also the idea, I wanted to I felt like the one thing I was getting antsy about was who was getting FaceTime and who wasn't, because your natural instincts as a writer is that there's a story going on and the people who need to be in the story are there. And then there's all these other people standing around being a Colossus in the 1980s. And I didn't want to do that. So I wanted to make sure that we got a look at every one of them, and everyone got a spotlight. So, and this happened like day 2 of pandemic. I will flat out, and I've seen a lot of people talking about, oh, look what a lunatic I was during pandemic. This is what I would like. You see, that's how my anxiety manifested. My anxiety manifested in Oh, because there was a week or two we thought, oh, well, they're not going to make comics anymore. The world's coming to an end. We certainly don't need comics. And so, oh, if these are the last comics, then I would like to work with all these people. And so a lot was of boxes were being checked off my list to make this happen. Also, I wanted to do this trial story uniquely.
Sure.
So that it checked a lot of boxes. So, and also, I think you can hear I'm a little addicted to the collaboration idea and coming after collaborations for new things. So coming up to like 40 artists, some of which are my friends, some of which are complete strangers, some of which are my heroes, and saying, who's your favorite Legionnaire? It's yours, right? And then
Awesome.
they got to pick. So every artist got to pick their Legionnaire, unless they were already picked. But amazingly, other than 3 characters, one of which was Mon-El, everybody picked a different character. Like I didn't have a lot of fighting.
That's excellent.
I was shocked by this.
That's wonderful.
Like I asked my Grell, well, which one would you like? He goes, Dawnstar. But my Dawnstar
awesome.
was great. I like
that's great.
Do yours,
wow.
Do yours, man. And,
fun. Hilarious.
Yeah, so we had a great time doing it. And also I found out like when I took Legion and when the announcement was Legion, literally everyone in comics goes, oh, I want to do Legion. Like everyone.
Brian, keep answering and then answer the next question because I got to duck out for a quick second. Excuse me.
I'll take over the show. Okay, no worries.
Yeah, take over the show. Stand by.
You got to pee? All right.
Yes, I do. Stand by.
Is this a first? I feel this is a first.
It is. As I get older, I got to take pee breaks. Hang on.
No worries, man. So I forget what to say. So yeah, it was an opportunity to let all my friends who told me they love the Legion to at least let them have one Legion page. And I am an enormous fan of Jam comics. I read a couple as a kid, and it flowed. Like the Fantastic Four roast was one of them. There's a couple like this where an artist did a page of each, and I love them. And so every time I have an opportunity to do one in story, I've taken it, all chasing after that feeling that I had as a kid reading Justice League 200, which is actually one of my more influential comics. So it's trying to scratch the itch that I think Justice League 200 did. That was more than the Legion one, but yeah, the Legion one was part of it as well. Thank you, because that story was a lot of work. Having 40 artists weaving a story together is way more work than required by the gig on any level. So I appreciate you buying it and enjoying it. And I hope you take another day once in a while and just flip through the pages and look at all this beautiful art. All right. So Green Shadow asks, did you have a lot more for that Defenders book and had to wrap it up because of your deal with DC? That book was good and had a lot of potential. Thank you for dropping by. I was going to leave after 12, but I did hope it would keep going. I didn't want it to go away, but it did. So I am David and I are deeply proud of that book, and also that was one of our last books with Justin, who is a long collaborator with us. So it was nice that we got to have it. I will say what's funny between working at Marvel and DC is that like I did write some jokes. I wrote some of my first Deadpool in that Defenders book, and I have a joke where Deadpool goes, "Hey, let's go to Titan's Tower and I'll take a shower together." And I didn't know I was going to DC when I wrote the joke, but by the time it got published, I was going to DC. So people read the joke differently. And then when I got to DC and I made some Spider-Man joke, they weren't into it. So it's funny that Marvel is more into those kind of jokes, or were at the time, than DC is making fun of Marvel. So there you go. Oh, hello.
I can only imagine what you've been saying. So there you go.
No, it was no. I had a joke. I think I even got away with it. I think I squeezed it in anyhow, because I think I showed them. I did a much grosser joke about Titan Tower last year, and Marvel didn't care. I can't reference Spider-Man here, and then thank you, and so I think I can't remember what the joke was. something Spider-Man related, I think. Something.
All
Anyway.
right. Lone Hero 2 wants you to do Cartoonist Kayfabe, which is a great show if you're not aware of it, Brian.
Have not been invited. You got to be invited. You can't just show up to places. But
Jimmy Rugg
I do feel
Ed Pisker.
I do feel often that even though I was very frustrated with that mouse cover they did, they did a mouse parody cover. That's Jewish person says no.
Fair enough.
But I will say that that we seem grown up in the exact same bubble of interest. And then when they did that whole episode on the print magazines comic book, I talk about that print magazine in the upcoming Fortune and Glory. That's how important it was to my thing. So I feel like we have a lot of connective thread things. A lot of the same things made us who we are. So I'm glad they're
cool.
Covering a lot of that stuff.
They're good guys. I really like Jim. I like Ed. They're good guys.
It's a lot of times that show is, I wish I was doing that show. So I'm glad this show exists. Like, I feel like that's a lot of stuff. No, because we kind of realize that it's part of our job to like keep some of this stuff alive. Like in film and music too. Like if you're in music, it's part of your job to let the people who are reading your stuff now know where you came from. Like where, like that. I found out about Will Eisner through Frank Miller. Like that's who taught me about it. So I realized that like I forget like that's part of our job is to like, yeah, you should read Old Legion. It's really good. Go read Marvel Fanfare. That's where I stole all my shit from.
That's so funny. I was literally thinking, I'm like, I gotta get Al Milgram on a solo show to talk about Marvel Fanfare. He was the editor, of course. And
I have questions. I'll co-host with you.
There you go. That would be great.
Kitty Wolverine questions. All right.
There you go. Kid Vanicus wants to know, how was your experience working with Peach Momoko on the latest variant for
It
Pearl?
went just like this. Daniel Shaban said, I asked Peach. They said yes. And then like 3 days later, that amazing cover showed up. And I went, wow. And that was it.
That's great.
That was it.
Wow, that's cool.
I would, yeah, it was delightful. So I'm of the school now where variant covers are like almost like a place to be, this gallery of art, of high art and comics.
Sure.
And it was almost happening by accident, and I and a lot of other people just leaned into it. Like our choices on Pearl and Joy are these pieces are gorgeous, just absolutely gorgeous. So that's that we come at them for the people who want them. We want to make sure we give them something very special. So I was very grateful for it. And also, when a book's returning, it's sometimes hard to get people's attention. There's this industry more than anyone is all number one issue. New
stuff.
So, yep. So it's nice to have her out there and to turn some heads a little bit to this absolutely beautiful book that Michael Gaydos makes. Just absolutely gorgeous.
Could not agree more. I'm glad it's back. His art is, as always, so on the money. But also, I just love the idea, and always have, especially coming from an immigrant background, a different immigrant background than an Asian background. But I really do love that idea of the Yakuza and how they might be integral to a neighborhood and protecting a neighborhood, both in a corrupt way and a safety way. I always say my grandmother was very protected by a lot of Chicago gangsters back in the 30s when she was a single mom with 3 kids and was living in a mob neighborhood. And they were like, nobody touches Ann because she's a struggling mother and we are here to help her. And they did. Again, I'd say that with no judgment either way, but it's like, all I can say is my grandmother was protected by these guys. And that's, I think, a fascinating facet when Pearl, and just her family and the connection.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that is one of my favorite bits too. And that came out of like research. You can't find a book or documentary. Go to YouTube. There's some wonderful documentaries about Yakuza, where it was, where it's going, where it's been, the women of Yakuza. And in it, you almost always hear about the necessary evil or necessary force that these immigrant communities need their own people
system. Yeah.
and or things go bad. And this is going back hundreds of years in any country, in anything. But in this American Yakuza thing, I kept hearing it over and over again. And I was like, and that's something I've never seen referenced in any of the American Yakuza storylines. But what we always see in American Yakuza storylines is like that white savior trope, like a dude shows up and learns all about the Yakuza and fixes it for them. But that's never happened. It's never ever happened. No. So it's weird. Like, here's this really interesting idea that has happened over and over again that's never referenced, and so I switched it out purposely, looking for that, because I think that, and I'm so glad you said it, because I grew up in a community that we don't have a mafia, but we had people of importance that took care of things if things need to get taken care of, and sure. So I don't think there's a immigrant community that doesn't know that reality on some level, whether it be from the church or be it from like there's a community that needs to help itself. So yeah,
agreed. No, it's fascinating.
So thank you for that. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely, 100%, man. No, that's one of the things about Pearl that I really do love in particular. Radium Theater has a Joy Division question. Joy Operations.
Joy Operations. I know I should have changed it to Joy.
The band would be suing you if you went with Joy Division. Whoever's left of it.
It's not the first person to call the Joy Division to me in compliment, and it's always, yeah. And it's funny because
good music.
I don't think other writers have this problem. I've done this before. I had a book out years ago called Goldfish. It'll be coming out again through Dark Horse. It was my earliest crime books, but the logo, the P of the fish was a gun, and I thought it was so clever. A friend of mine made it for me, and it said AKA Goldfish, and it said AKA Gold, and with the gun. And I remember someone came up to me, and like, this is in a time where like I would not get compliments a lot, and then someone came up to me and said, "I love your book so much. Aka Goldfish is the best book." And I was like, okay, that's not the title of the book. And so embarrassing, but you want to take in the compliment. So same thing here. Okay. So here we are 30 years later, same problem. What do I do? All right, Joe Division. I was wondering why you made her polymorphous. What was your inspiration for her wife and husband? Will we see that relationship develop further in your second run? Yes, because I've already written it. So for people who don't know, Joy Operations, I don't want to spoil it, but Joy is in a marriage with another man and woman. It is 55 years in the future. I just believe we are already in a completely different universe than the one I grew up in, as far as relationships and their state go. And yes, there will always be commitment and marriage and things that we have, but I also love that the binary systems of relationships and sexuality are being pulled down so people can find their actual real truth and happiness. And so these things I do not think are going to be a big deal in the future. And I wanted to represent that. I live in Portland, where I have a lot of friends in different styles and types of relationships. Some have labels, some do not. And when you write about the future, it's hard not to think that these things that are outliers will be very mainstream very, very soon. So that has a lot to do with it. And I also think that love between more than one person is really interesting to me. I have friends that I'm in the committed two-person situation, but our friends that aren't, how they express this, it deeply fascinates me. And so I wanted to represent it. And I also thought, and I don't want to spoil, so hang up when I hear this, but so in Joy Operations, we find out that has been infiltrated by another operative. There's someone living inside her. Much like Steve Martin and Lily Tomlin and All of Me. She's sharing her soul, at least for the foreseeable future. The woman inside her did not know she was that all the complications that were coming, that they were going to be, we at least for now, stuck together. And now, we're stuck together. Well, am I now in the relationship too? And so Hampton, who is inside Joy, ends the series with when do we get to have sex? Like that sounds really interesting. So yeah, we open book we open book 2 with a reveal.
Interesting. All right, then. That's coming
Adults
up.
making comics. Yeah.
Yeah, what
Say
the
again?
hell? That's
Sorry.
I said,
Yeah.
so
No,
that's coming back in the fall.
I love to, yeah, and probably winter, but I
Okay.
love to write about things that are outside my experience and research them and I I always do it for selfish reasons and I was so delighted. Like I immediately got emails. Thank you for making a relationship like this. Like it really does make people happy to see other represented. So it's just, it's that's the best thing. I'm trying to like find a way to tweet this, but like all of you joining us tonight, I know we're going long. We can hang out soon. Like John's had enough of this.
Not true, but you know that.
That if people knew what it felt like to really connect with people through a story, like to write a story and then it comes back to you. If you knew, like really felt like, I think everyone would be doing it and our society would collapse because there'd be no one else doing anything else. It's just the best. It's amazing. Yeah. And particularly like stuff like Pearl, like it's completely like right from our gut. Like, I hope you like my guts, and someone respond to it. It's just unbelievable. And by the way, never gets old. It only accentuates with age.
That's excellent. Mentioning that, as you know, we're kind of in a period where, depending on who you hear, another area of criticism is stay in your lane. Don't write, whatever. Are you getting any sort of pushback on Pearl from that standpoint?
Not that I've seen.
I haven't seen it either.
Yeah, I mean, every once in a while, someone grimaces that I'm one of the creators of Miles Morales, but
sure.
Well, that was 15 years ago. What am I supposed to do? So,
no, I understand.
I think two things. Number one, most of these are original creations. This is my lane, and my lane is whatever I want to put in it. Right?
Sure.
Hey man, do my. Yeah. No. I give it thought. I do give it thought. I think as a Jewish man, and with my multiracial household and my perspective, as it were,
yeah,
I look at what other people are doing, and I look at myself and see, well, are you doing right by your characters and yourself and your and so yeah, I think that my lane is human. So I think writer, like if you're a writer or an artist, isn't the lane all things?
I agree with that.
And you're supposed to do the research and lean in. And I am as disconnected to the reality of Pearl's life as I was to Matt Murdock's. I'm not a Catholic blind lawyer. Like there's no truth that connects to my life there. So you just have to do the research and get into it. And I know there are people who will never agree with that, but it looks like at this point, most of the people reading my stuff are like thinking the same thoughts, like, yeah. And also I've learned that sometimes that outside perspective, not all the time, but sometimes that outside perspective illuminates truth that you couldn't get from inside the house. It's like why so many great American comedians are actually Canadian. They're looking at it from a different perspective. No, that's not a joke. Like I'm
laughing because you're right.
The great comedians, from Jim Carrey to John Candy, but these are people observing us from outside looking in, and here's what I'm showing you. And
are you watching New Kids in the Hall on Amazon?
Well, I have a very funny Kids in the Hall. This is perfect for this show. I watched I'm traveling a lot last week, so my TV was sporadic. I will finish it,
sure,
but I watched the pilot right away because I was dying to see if it was any good or not. I'm a huge Kids in the Hall fan. I love Brain Candy. I love it. I haven't seen it in years. I don't know how. Yes. I don't know if it's problematic now, but I loved it then. And I also have a big soft spot in my heart for movies that were connected to something popular that weren't popular movies.
Yes.
Like I don't know why. I do.
No,
I
I'm
love
with
when
you.
they get a movie and it doesn't, like the Tenacious D movie. Like I love all movies that like they got their movie made, and
yeah, and
that's
it is what it
happened.
is.
So,
But again, if you're a diehard fan, you love it. Absolutely, man. And
yeah.
it is.
So
I'm with you. Kids are amazing.
So,
and yeah, go on.
So the pilot continues from Brain Candy, which delighted me to no end. Like, fuck you if you don't like Brain Candy. And then I'm like startled by like how old they are. They're all my age. So they're a little older than me, but like Dave Foley is an old man. Is hard to process.
I'm
right?
hip. Yes.
So I watch it, and not to spoil, you get to see them full frontal. You get to see there's a lot of
do. And Kevin McDonald.
There's more old man junk in the show than in my real life. And it was it was startling and funny. It did stay with me. There was such delight in the performance that it was hard not to enjoy that they did that. But so I'm on the plane home, and out of the corner of my eye, I see some old people on my daughter's screen. And I go, "Oh, are you watching Kids in the Hall?" And she goes, "No, I'm watching Frankie and Johnny." It was Lily Tomlin. It wasn't fucking out of the corner of my eye.
Oh yeah,
Grace and
Frankie. Grace and Frankie. Yeah,
Frankie and Gracie. And I thought it was was fucking Jane Fonda, and I thought it was Scott Thompson. That's how old they are now.
Dude, it's like watching the Pythons in their last years when Terry Jones was still with them and everything. And yes, they're senior citizens, but they don't care. Filter is off. And they're just as like, we're going to go for it as they were when they were kids. And the same goes for the Kids in the Hall. And I love that about them. And in fact, as you said about Canadians having a different observation of America, my favorite Dave Foley line, there was like a job interview and Scott Thompson was Thompson was doing the interview. Dave Foley was the applicant. And it's like, "So you're American?" He's like, "No, I'm Canadian." And he's like, "Canadian?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm from Canada. It's like America without the gut." And it's like, that is a perfect definition of Canada. It is a leaner, nicer America, and it is so true. They take a little bit better care of it. Well,
and I'm married to a Canadian, and my kids have.
I always forget that about Lisa.
Yeah. So I'm a very Canadian household.
That's awesome. No, I'm
sure we should wrap up soon, right?
Yeah, we can.
Do you have any more?
Yeah, sure, buddy.
Any more ones that we should wrap up? I don't want to drag it on.
Let's Christoph Spahey says
I love Christoph. Christoph has been with us for a very long time. Christoph is Bendis board OG.
Oh, that's great,
even
man.
Before
Welcome
Bendis
back.
Board. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
For a long time, you wrote single character narratives, which I love. What was the key in unlocking writing for team books or stories with less of a focus on a single point of view?
It was very hard for me. I realized on the job, this is a whole different like language. Like it's, sometimes you think it's comics, it's all comics. There's genre specific and narrative specific things that you have to master of equal value. And that's why when I was first offered the X-Men, the Ultimate X-Men, years and years ago, when I first did Ultimate Spider-Man, those first scripts went over well. And then they offered me X-Men 2. And I struggled out of the gate, like as flowing as Spider-Man was going. My Ultimate X-Men was, had a hard time writing it before. And I struggled with it. And maybe I'll post the script one day. There are scripts that exist. And it was very Gambit and Rogue, which is weird because I never wrote them, like really ever. Beyond that, I think it's probably because I boned it so hard in the get-go. But I was struggling. I didn't know. I couldn't find the perspective of the story, and then maybe the story I was trying to tell as well. I didn't have it yet, and I asked to bail on X-Men. I said, "Hey, I don't. In my gut, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to debut like this. I don't think this is going to work." And Mark was absolutely the right person to do that book at that time. that was 100% the right choice. And me and Mark together for that line was the right choice. Everything about it was great. And but I was a little devastated with myself. I'm like, are you a fucking writer or not? You know, like how can you not do this? So I spent a long time, those couple of years, like whittling my way into group functions with Spider-Man. Like Spider-Man would show up to places where there was a group. The X-Men would show up. Like I would try my way in from different perspective, and then I finally kind of figured out that no, that every scene has a perspective, and you find the one that's the most interesting or the most dangerous or the most, you know, the most captivating, and take it from there. And then I had this great. There was this article years ago. It might have been in Premiere Magazine. That's how fucking long ago it was. But it was about the screenplay of a movie, American Gangster. And I hope I'm not conflating a timeline here. But there was the movie American Gangster, starring Russell Crowe and Denzel Washington, and it's written by Steve Zalian. And in the article, he described at great length, for a very writerly article, about how he, instead of noting the storylines together, he wrote one whole screenplay for Denzel Washington's character and one whole screenplay for Russell Crowe's character, and then found the moments to weave them. So there's a whole movie that's dedicated to the perspective of each character, and then from there you can see, oh, that's the good part, and that's a good part, and that's a good part. Like, you see where it's most effective from the character's point of view. So I did a version of that for quite a few years on Avengers, where I would like literally strip the story down and the scene down from each character's perspective, just to see, am I missing anything? Is there, like, I know in my heart Iron Man is the most interesting person in the room right now. All right, so let's go back and look at it from the Wasp point of view. Let's do the whole scene again from the Wasp point of view. Is that more interesting? Sometimes my very first instinct was right on the money. Yeah, Iron Man was the way to go. Other times I'm like, oh, you found it. There's that little, sometimes even a little line of dialogue or a little momentum for the character that creates that, like, they belong there. Like, because I made a little joke earlier. I grew up with a lot of comics where there was always an X-Men character standing around in the background doing nothing. Like, they were there because they were on the cover, but they're not actually in the story. And I used to joke about every time you saw Colossus grilling, I thought that was the artist trying to, like, give him something to do, which is fair. So I wanted to make sure there were no Colossuses, like no one was hanging around the background not doing much. And I know that's like in complete counter to writing the Legion of Superheroes, where at least 20 characters are standing around doing nothing. But not in my script, by the way. If you read my script, I say what they're all doing. It's just you can't possibly see it all on panel. But in my heart, because I feel so guilty, that I say what everyone's going on. So yeah, so it was I dedicated myself to teaching myself how to do something, much like if I said, you know what, I need to learn how to make a motorcycle, and I'll just keep learning until I get it right. And that's what I did. And also powers was a big part of it too. I could like, every time I was feeling rage about the genre or my frustrations with myself in the genre, I would do it in that book, and that would help me find more voice towards the group thing. So yeah, so to me, it's, and only me, it's delightful that I went from, oh, I can't write the X-Men, to now I'm writing Legion of Superheroes for HBO. That is a journey that I will own. So
that's awesome.
I feel at least the confidence to do it. And also, Christoph, great to hear from you. I hope you're doing very well. It's wonderful to hear from you.
That's excellent, man. Jimmy, all right, last questions. Last two questions.
This will be last? Okay.
Yep.
We were going to go an hour. How long do we go?
Oh, good Lord. We're at 2:20. Yeah, we're at 2:20. Don't kid yourself.
I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. You know me. First of all,
there was other things I wanted to get to. We got to talk about the offer. Please. I could have done that for an hour. And we talked about the podcast.
Slow Horses is a great Apple Plus show if you haven't already watched it.
Man, everyone we know has told me Slow Horses. Like, from every walk of life. Can't wait. That is on the list. It is literally on the Apple Plus list. So
yeah, but I texted you and I said, the only thing I would say is, It's not one of those, okay, I'm going to write while I'm watching and stuff. You got to pay attention, but that's great. You want to show that you got to pay attention.
No, yeah. No, I have shows that I can work for. I have shows that I treat myself with. And also, we live in I live in a world where I nationalize any content devouring because I'm in the business.
Right.
I gotta see it. So I can waste years of nonsense.
Well, and unlike the
games,
author,
TV.
It's like, sure, but this is like good writing. This is absolutely good writing, and it's a great idea. So no, you'll love it. I'm sure you'll love it.
No, the offer's a great idea too. The offer's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, but again, it's unfortunately not as good of an execution.
Also, bravo to the people playing Al Pacino and Marlon Brando, by the way. God damn.
Well, that guy who plays
really
Brando, the Pacino is fantastic, but that guy who plays Brando was on Grey's Anatomy for years. And I don't know
I don't know who
Brando.
he is. Okay.
Yeah, I don't either. He kind of looks like he should be Kevin and Matt Dillon's brother because he's got kind of a Dillon face, I think. But I have to admit, he's doing really good with Brando.
Had a look. Brando had an early 70s look that people only think of The Godfather, but that's not what he looked like back then.
No.
And so it's fascinating that he got it down.
Well, again, I think the acting's great. It's just the story that, unfortunately, not as good.
Is there an episode coming that's all about Jimmy Caan?
I certainly hope so. Again, one of the stars.
Then don't bother.
I agree. Well, I was going to say one of the great storytellers that you've seen in the documentaries about The Godfather, who has this kind of insight. So no, it's fun, but what are you going to do? Jimmy Vlog wants
I think more people are going to watch it because of this than anyway.
He wants to know what it was like working with Hickman on. Oh, go ahead. He wanted to know what it was like working with Hickman on. Was the writing process
not much.
His?
My name really, honestly, shouldn't even be on that trade paperback. If I'm being frank, that's one of my favorite things that I brought to the Marvel Universe. That idea,
Secret Warriors,
the Secret Warriors. I really it came out of a
Noir.
real life thing too. Like I like when I found something in real life that I can do. There's a Marvel version of that the Chaos and the Illuminati was that too. Illuminati came out of Rules of Secrecy by Jim Mars. It was a book he wrote about all the secret societies that really run things back in the 70s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And I thought, what's the Marvel version of that? So
sure.
the real life things are always the things I'm most proud of, or I feel the most gravitas about. And so in this one, they really wanted a Secret Warriors book. And at the time, I did not have the bandwidth for that. And at the time, I was actively promoting John's work to them because I'd read Nightly News and I'm like, God, this guy's fucking great. And and there was like this weird couple of years where every time we would recommend someone, so why don't we put you two together? They said, well, he's only done a handful of comics. I'm like, no, but you can tell he's got it. You can tell he's got it. And there's a couple other writers that if I told you who they thought needed to be teamed up with someone, you'd go, get the fuck out of here. But there was a couple of times where they thought they were hedging their bet. And again, I haven't been there, and I haven't been in the room when a writer completely imploded on them. And I know they had to deal with that sometimes. Like a stranger comes in the room and just doesn't have what it takes, or on any level. So I get them hedging their bets and putting someone in there who keep the ship steady. But I just had a feeling about John. I haven't talked to John in a long time, but I had a feeling about John right from the get-go. You read Nightly News, like this person has a lot of things to say, and also I admired, like myself, the art was innovative because he wasn't classically trained. Like he couldn't draw as good as he wanted, so he did it in graphic design. I hope that doesn't come off as a shitty insult. It's not.
No.
I think it's brilliant that you can put a comic together without with what you have, and I think he did it, and I loved it. So they put us together. I had a document of ideas that came with the Secret Warriors and these characters that meant the world to me. And then I just gave it to him. And like people who have respected me in the past, anytime I'm in a position to let someone just go nuts, that was given to me. Joe let me just go nuts. Todd let me just go nuts. Like, and that was an immense amount of respect. So if I'm in a position to do so, I try to do that. And it's never to like wash my hands of it. It's because no, I would really like to see what you do here. I think you got this. And if you don't, let me know. But he did. He had it right away. Like, what am I going to tell him? And as the years gone by, it's only been proven time and time again. So co-writing is weird because there's some co-writing that you're literally like sitting in each other's laps and typing every other letter. Hope we got this right. And sometimes you're bouncing ideas back and forth and go, hey, I think I'm going to write this for us, or you want to write it for us? Or we'll write it. I'll write the verbs. You do the nouns. Like, it can come in any shape or form. And I like Kelly Sue and I were just talking about this the other day to my class, because we've all had like, I've never had a co-writing experience that was identical to the previous one. They've all been different. Even when I've co-written with same people, like co-writing with David Walker and Young Justice and Naomi, completely different. So I do love doing it. I will say I've never been in a writing situation that actually saved time. I know a lot of editors think that co-writing gets the pages done faster. No, don't. They don't at all. But what it does get, it gets you to places in your writing that you may not have gotten to on your own. That's always been exciting. Yeah.
Cool.
No, I mean, like when me and wrote the Castle graphic novels together, Hold for Applause, and that was completely different than anything either of us have ever done. I don't think like if we did today, we wouldn't do anything like that. So,
no, I'm with you, man. And I remember similar stories. Yes, I remember similar stories about Brubaker and Fraction doing X-Men, and Fraction and Rick Remender doing Punisher War Journal, and some of the other things that they did together.
Perfect example.
So yeah. So no, it did very similar. Absolutely, man. Listen, we can wrap there. I think this was great, and I think that was a great final thing. Everybody, thanks for the great questions. Brian, as always, thanks for your time. And
thank you.
You know that.
So we'll do this live in Chicago.
Oh, it'd be my pleasure. But, you want to do a panel or whatever?
Yeah,
sure,
why not?
Okay, great.
Or we're just we'll go to the men's room again. We did a whole one of these in the men's room at Chicago Con like 10 years ago. Maybe 15 years ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. It was a long time. It was probably 2008 or something.
You can hear your favorite comic creators pooping while we're talking. It's
sadly true. Experience. Oh my god! Honestly, and that's another great
podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why you're in the Hall of Fame, buddy.
They cited that in particular.
That kind of
yes. Yeah, we need you to recapture that moment of gold when you and Bendis were in the men's room in Rosemont. It's true.
Hilarious.
So yeah, Brian's coming to Fan Expo Chicago, and that's at the end of June, or no, it's July. It's after
middle of June. I don't remember.
It's after the 4th. It's right after the 4th of July. It's that weekend after the 4th.
So I will be there. We'll sign it again. I will sign in anything. We'll have a good time. And listen, I deeply appreciate all those of you who hopped on the last minute with us tonight. That's always very cool. It's a nice hang. I really appreciate it. And sign up to the Substack, because all of this happens there on a regular basis, including.
So what is that? What is that Substack address? So, what's the URL for the Substack? What's the URL? I'm sorry, I mean, it's talk.
Oh, just Jinx World
at Substack.
Yeah, Jinx World or Brian Michael Bendis. Yeah.
Okay.
Just go to Substack, type my name. It comes right up.
Excellent. Fantastic.
Or just go to my Twitter. It's there. Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. No, man. Great conversation.
Right, we're talking on top of each other.
Yeah. Well, stay on for a minute at least and talk to me off the air. But yeah, thanks everybody for watching. It's going to be fun this week. Wednesday, I'm talking to Stephanie Phillips live on Word Balloon, who I love. She's terrific.
Ooh.
I'm such a fan.
You had a couple good ones last week, too. Who'd you have last week? You had a couple of really good ones that
Kelly Jones.
I haven't listened. Kelly Jones is good. There was another one.
Well, I had Jonathan. Yeah, well, Philip. We did video. I still have to do the audio of that. I'm sitting on a Brubaker, and I'm so guilty about that. But I've just been doing a ton. But also Jonathan Frakes, the great Commander Riker. That was
right. Okay, cool.
Oh my God.
I just had the best conversation with Ed this week. I'm excited for you to. Ed's in a really good space. I'm really
yes, he is. Yes, he is.
To download that. And me and Ed, we broke into comics like the same week at Caliber Comics, like 31 years ago. It's crazy.
Ha!
Crazy.
That's insane. So, yes, absolutely, man. No, and truly to tease the Brubaker conversation that I will drop tomorrow. He gets into some very interesting insight on that upcoming Batman animated series that he is the story editor on and in charge of the writer's room. And I think we're all going to be very excited when that thing finally hits. Could be.
Did he talk about anybody he hired? Did he talk about?
He did. He did.
Okay, good. People. There's some cool hires in there. Yeah,
absolutely.
It's very, very good.
So look forward to that, and great conversation with Mike Gold. Great conversation with Paul Kupperberg talking about the Bronze Age years.
Ooh.
Those are still to come.
Ooh.
And yeah. So no, we've been doing all right here. God bless everyone for coming on Word Balloon. It's nice 17 years later that everybody, including yourself, still wants to talk, and that's the greatest compliment I can get. And of course, the audience wanting to hear this BS. So thank you as always, everybody. So everybody stay safe, stay happy.